I'm sorry, did I say November? For December 12th is now in session. Just a reminder, please make sure your cell phones are off. And if you need to have conversations, please take them outside of the room. It's very difficult for us to hear the applicants at the table. Just in conformance with the open meeting law, I'm also reminding you that this meeting is being live streamed and will be available publicly. When you come here and speak on behalf or in opposition to a project, please put your name and address on the record. Tell us what your concerns are zoning-wise. And if somebody else has already stated your concern, just put your name and address on the record. We are here to find new information, so please give us as much new information as possible. Also, final reminder that the opinions of the Boston Redevelopment Authority, those of the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, and the community are all taken under advisement. This board will make its decision based on what we hear. Mr. Ehrlich? Sorry, Mr. Fortune.
November, Mr. Ehrlich, we're in good shape today. Thank you, Madam Chair. Yeah, first order of business is the approval of the hearing minutes of November 14th, 2017. Need a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Before I go to extension, I just want to make one announcement that the board will hear 233 Hancock Street at 10:30, not 9:30. So Hancock, 233 Hancock Street is at 10:30. Calling the first case for extension, calling BZC 32943, 531 East 2nd Street.
Madam Chair, members of the board, I recuse myself from this.
Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney of Adams and Moranci with the business address of 350 West Broadway.
So, Councilor, tell us why you're here.
Madam Chair, we're seeking a one-year extension. The relief expires in January. The property's been acquired. The architect has been retained, and he's working on construction drawings, which should be ready in a few months.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to extend for 1 year.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 519-991, 14 Lawnwood Place. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, my name is Allison Berglund of 12 Lawnwood Place in Charlestown.
So please tell us why you're here this morning.
I am here for an extension, for a one-year extension. I now have a contractor who is able to do the job, and all paperwork and approvals have been made.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Before we do that, I have one question. We have an address here of 14 Lawnwood Place. Did you say 12 Lawnwood Place?
I live at 12, and 14 is the property that's under
Perfect.
question.
I just didn't want to have
Sorry.
any confusion for the record.
No, thank you.
Sorry, Mark.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 515-120, 153 Bowen Street. Name and address for the record, please.
The address is 153 Bowen.
And your name, please?
My name is Lawrence O'Brien. I live at 760 East 8th Street.
Tell us why you're here.
Requesting a one-year extension on the variance.
So what's held you up?
The design reviews. We're still in BRA. We're still in BWSC, the Boston Water and Sewer Commission, and we're still securing a structural person, depending on what comes out of those two reviews.
Okay. May I have a motion, please?
Motion for a one-year extension.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're set.
Thank you.
Calling board final arbiter on BOA 543-908, 100 A Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney of Adams and Moranci, the business address of 350 West Broadway. What I've submitted to the board, and I do have copies being printed, but Mr. Bizzani has the only full set, is the requested change to automated parking. So the parking spaces we were cited previously for vehicle maneuverability, which is the same violation that would be cited for automated parking. And the current design allows for an additional 5 parking spaces. 400 8th Street, I did come before you to request a deferral last time because the plans examiner, Lisa Hahn, had a couple of questions. I'd since met with her and resolved those questions, and we did in fact confirm that vehicle maneuverability is the only zoning violation that would result of this, and we received relief for it.
But we have already made a decision on this.
No,
We have not made a decision on this.
correct.
So this is not board final arbiter, it's a full case.
No, this is final arbiter. I'm
Why is-
sorry, I thought you meant,
Why is it final arbiter?
it's final arbiter because the permit has not been issued. It's also final arbiter because no new violations are created.
Okay.
We received, when the,
So when was this case before this board?
2 years ago, 3 years ago, possibly.
This year, 3 years ago, did it come in for an extension?
It was approved on the board on April 5th, 2016.
Yeah.
So that's within the 2 years.
Right.
And so tell us what the relief was that you requested?
The relief has been granted previously for vehicle maneuverability
Okay.
and insufficient parking. The parking is no longer insufficient. However, we are seeking to expand board final arbiter to include the automated parking, which would be the same violation as vehicle maneuverability.
How are the plans
The
designed?
drawings are adequate. Counselor, the drawings show capacity now of 10 parking spaces, is that correct?
It is.
And it's a,
What were they before?
5 fixed spaces.
okay, and the difference is these are, it's a double lift, and it's,
Yes.
one car drops below grade, the other car drives on top.
Exactly.
Drawings are adequate.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to grant the relief requested.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, you're all
Thank you.
set.
Calling next case for G-Card, calling BOA 773-323, 5 Rutland Square. This is a existing frame new stairs down to the basement, install groundwater recharge. Article 32, restore existing facade. The violations, Article 32, Section 4, groundwater applicability for basement excavation and substantial rehabilitation. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Zach Shedlock, representing Holland Construction, and the address is 5 Rutland Square in Boston. And so we're looking to do a groundwater recharge at this address, and we submitted our plans with our civil engineer to Boston Water and Sewer, and plan to conform with their approval letter and their notice at this project.
Christian?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Christian Simonelli, Boston Groundwater Trust, and we do have the approval letter from Boston Water and Sewer.
Thank you. May I have
Okay.
a motion, please?
Motion for approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, you're all set.
Calling next case, calling BOA 763-071, 163 Newbury Street. This is changing occupancy from a one-family dwelling and office to store to two-family dwelling and retail for spaces, and adding fourth-floor addition, constructing two-story addition to the rear elevation. Violations, Article 32, Section 4, G-Card applicability. Name and address for the record, please.
Name is Zachary Shedlock with Holland Construction, and the address is 163 Newbury Street. Also, this is a project with groundwater where we're looking to do a groundwater recharge and storage, and we sent our plans in to Boston Water and Sewer for approval, and we plan to comply with their suggestions.
Is that letter on the record?
We do have it.
Christian?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Christian Simonelli, Boston Groundwater Trust, and we do have the approval letter from Boston Water and Sewer.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries, you're all set. Good luck.
They call the 9:30 hearings. Are there any deferrals or withdrawals for 9:30? This is deferrals or withdrawals only. Calling the first case, calling BOA 765-842, 150 to 152 Baywater Street. This is a proposed project is seeking to change the occupancy from a two-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling and renovate the building and install dormers. The The violations, Article 53, Section 8, three-family is forbidden in a 2F sub-district. Article 53, Section 8, the basement units are forbidden. Article 53, Section 9, the location of the main entrance to the basement dwelling unit must face the front lot line. Article 53, Section 9, excessive FAR. Article 53, Section 9, number of allowed stories has been exceeded. Article 53, Section 9, maximum allowed height has been exceeded. Article 53, Section 9, insufficient usable open space per unit. Article 53, Section 9, insufficient side yard setback. Article 53, Section 9, insufficient rear yard setback. And Article 53, Section 56, insufficient parking. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano with a business address of 15 Broad Street. Here representing Michael Semino is Representative Derek Broden is here, and James Christopher from RCA, that's the architect on the project. We're here today seeking zoning relief to change the occupancy from an existing two-family dwelling to a three-family dwelling, legalizing a garden-level unit. Or also, this project would include a complete renovation of the facility and also adding dormers to the top floor. This particular district is a 2F 4000. However, it's very commonplace for three families. We have a list, from 174 Bayswater all the way to 114 Bayswater, where there are existing three families. The particular unit sizes, the new proposed unit is a two-bedroom, one-bath, 1,133 square foot proposed new unit, 7'6" height for that bottom level. And if you look at the grading, it's about 100% above grade in the front and around 60% total. Unit 2, that's an existing unit, is a two-bedroom, one-bath, 1,276 square unit, two-bed, one-bath. And then the third floor would be a penthouse unit, 2,000 square feet, two-bed, one-bath on the second, and then a master bed and bath on the third. They would also include some front and enclosed rear decks. Just to go through the violations, the new violations use, it is a 2F district, and this is a three-family proposed. The FAR is 0.8. We're seeking 1.10. The stories, although we're at 34 feet, 8 inches, which is below the 35-foot height requirement. The stories are at 3, and 2.5 is required. All of the other violations, and then parking. So 3 parking spaces would be required. We're not able to fit any parking. However, if you look in the site pictures provided on site picture 2, all along Massport owns all of the property on the right-hand side of the street. There is parking up and down that area that is provided. These are going to be condominium units to be sold. We did work with the abutters. I submitted multiple letters of support, but 2 in particular, which are abutters on our right and left side that signed support letters. And one of the requirements, or one of the asks that we had before when we went to the community, was to make sure that the roof and dormers remained pitched, was the style in that area, as opposed to a full third-story flat roof structure. At this time, I can pause for any questions that the board may have.
I do have one question. Basically, you're right on the beach, plus or minus. Were you written up for floodplain at all?
We were not. No. So it dips pretty low. I know the area well. So the beach is down the street, so I don't know if that affected, but we were not.
And what's the floor-to-ceiling height in the basement?
7'6".
Yeah. Okay. And what's the sense of the street? Is that 2 or 3 family?
There's a mix, so there's a lot of 2s, but there are a number of 3s at 174 Bayswater, 146, 144, 114, 110, 98, 100. So there are a number of large, whether it be up high or down below units that have been approved.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
Where's the second means of egress from the unit 1 basement?
The basement has 2 means of egress. Right at the front of the building, there'll be double French doors that walk out to a patio.
Yeah.
Then at the rear, there'll be an areaway stair that walks out of the kitchen.
And there's also...
Okay.
And there are window wells.
Yes.
Correct, in the bedrooms, yes.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is Jesus Garcia from the Office of Neighborhood Services, During the voters meeting, there was no opposition about this proposal, and we would like to go in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, can we ever speak Council Sal, I'm at Team's office. Council wishes go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? Please put your name and address on the record.
My name is Annie Ryan. I live at 14 Lillian Street. I am
I'm
in a
sorry, your
butter.
address again?
14 Lillian Street.
Okay.
I am in a butter. This has gone to, we met with them in August, the community around us. We all had very grave concerns about parking in the area because it is very tight right now. We met with East Boston community over a month ago, and we had opposition to having this to be a three-family as well. Parking is a big thing, and the majority of the family homes around there are two families. And that's all. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody else here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
And a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 708-911, 221 Paris Street. This is to demolish an existing single-family dwelling and erect a 4-story, 3-unit residential building with garage. Violations, Article 53, Section 56, off-street parking design. Article 53, Section 9, maximum allowed height has been exceeded. Article 53, insufficient side yard setback. Article 53, insufficient lot size. Article 53, insufficient additional lot area per unit. Article 53, insufficient lot width. Article 53, insufficient lot width. Article 53, Section 9, insufficient lot width frontage. And Article 53, Section 9, excessive FAR. Article 53, Section 9, number of allowed stories has been exceeded. And Article 53, Section 9, insufficient open space. Name and address for the record, please.
Harrison Bonner of Pearsall Development.
Tim Johnson, architect, 190 Old Colony Ave in Boston. Madam Chair, members of the board, we're proposing to demolish a 2.5-story structure and erect a 4-story 3-family over a garage. This is a 3-family zoning subdistrict, and the units break down to 2-bedroom, 1-bath at the top floor at 906 square feet. The middle unit, or the 3rd floor, 1-bedroom, 1-bath unit at 637 square feet. And the 2nd floor is a 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath at 913 square feet. At our,
So I'm sorry, the 2-bedroom is at 906 and the 3-bedroom is at 913?
yes, the 3-bedroom is a duplex. We're capturing space from the 2nd to the 3rd floor.
Okay.
At our abutters meeting, we didn't have...
I don't want to hear about a butters meeting. You're here to tell us about the zoning. These are a lot of violations, so please go directly and speak to the violations.
Of course, Madam Chair. Yes, we are seeking several zoning, relief from several parts of the zoning code. This side, in terms of height, this side of Paris Street, the building to the left of us at 223, 225 Paris is at 37 feet. We're at 40 feet. So that's really starting the...
So what does the zoning require?
The zoning requirement on height, Madam Chair. Where's my height?
35.
35 and
I'm
you're up
sorry.
to 40.
3 stories, 35 feet. Yes, Madam Chair. We're at 4 stories, 39 feet.
Okay.
So this side of Paris Street is a lot of older housing stock, wood framed, which is dilapidated. We're starting new buildings at 4 stories, 39 feet, 37 to 39 feet on this side of Paris Street. In terms of lot width, it's 20-foot lot width. We're at 18.2. So we're close to the lot width. In terms
Actually, is it 18.02?
of 18.02. And then for usable open space, 300 square foot per dwelling unit, we're at less than 300 square feet per dwelling unit, although the top floor does have a roof deck accessed by a bulkhead. The yards, we have a modal front yard. Side yard is 2.5 feet. We're at 0 and/or 6 inches. And the rear yard is 10 feet, we're at 6 inches.
The rear yard is 10 feet and you're 6 inches?
We are at 6 inches, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We did present this to the Eagle Hill Civic Association on 2 occasions. They had some comments at the first go-around. We made some changes to the roof profile, and then they voted to support the project.
Tell us how that parking is supposed to work.
Well, right now, it's shown as a little tight because there is an egress corridor along, as you look at the, from the street along the left side of the garage. We're working with the abutters in the rear. There is a passageway that accesses the lot in the rear, but we need 3 feet to get to it. If we can do that, then we can get rid of that hallway, and we have ample room for 3 cars to move in and out of the garage. Right now, it is a little tight. 1 car would have to move to let another out.
And what's the requirement on parking? So you're proposing 3 spaces, what's the requirement?
It's 1 space per dwelling unit.
Okay. Okay, and tell us about that roof deck.
Yes, the roof deck is dedicated to the top unit, 12 by 12, and it's accessed via a bulkhead and roof door. No head house.
No head house.
No head house, ma'am.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions?
Is the parking on that, is there parking on that side of the street?
There is parking on both sides of the street. This is a, sorry to interrupt, Mr. Pisani. This is a floodplain, a special floodplain zone, so we did not want to locate any living on the ground floor. That's why we dedicated all the parking.
Do you have to provide a handicapped unit?
No, because we have a duplex unit at the 2nd floor. The 2nd floor is required over garage or commercial space to provide a handicapped space. However, if it's a duplex unit or living on more than 1 level, it's exempt from 521 CMR. We have a duplex unit at the 2nd floor.
Okay.
But isn't, when you have parking and then a unit above, isn't the grade plane established at the unit above for that unit, and therefore access has to be to that unit? How do you get around that?
Well, again, per 521 CMR, it's the unit above the garage, which is required to be handicapped.
It's now the grade unit. Yeah.
Right. So, however, duplex units are exempt from 521 CMR. The unit above.
I thought the duplex unit was the top floor unit.
No, Mr. Pisani, it is the 2nd floor unit. Is a duplex. It captures a little space from the 3rd floor. So the only, in terms of 521 CMR, it's just our public spaces. The front doorbell, the front door is located at grade, and the doorbell at 40 inches above grade.
So for all intents and purposes, the building is not accessible.
It's inaccessible.
Okay. Go ahead.
Can you say again what your, I mean, the current parking system seems pretty unworkable. You said that there was a possibility of alternative solutions. What was that again?
Yes, in the, let me get this to, in the rear, there's a 3.5-foot passageway which comes right to the corner of our property, my client's property. And my client is negotiating with the abutter to get 3 feet, 3 by 3 foot easement over their property so we can access that passageway, and that would be our second egress to street. And then we would be able to get.
Not a driving egress.
No.
Passageway.
A passageway, and that means our rear stair could egress out that back passageway, and we can get rid of that interior corridor.
I see.
Therefore, so we're working on that to make parking a little bit more ample.
I mean, it still wouldn't solve the problem. You still have to move 1 car to get the inside.
Right, but every inch counts.
I get it,
Okay.
but the fundamental, the underlying problem doesn't change. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions from the board? And Mr. Pisani, did I ask you about the plans?
The drawings are adequate.
Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jesus Garcia from Neighborhood Services. During the community process, there was no opposition about this proposal. Eagle Hill Civic Association voted on support for this project. Therefore, we would like to go on record on support for this proposal. Thank you.
here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Aye. You're opposed, you're in support? You're opposed. Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 761-595, 205 to 207 Newbury Street. This is an interior renovation for new restaurant on the first floor. The violation is Article 8, Section 3, conditional use, new restaurant. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Jared Eigenman, Dalton Frankel, business address 183 State Street, Boston, Mass.
Will anybody else at the table be speaking?
Bruce Kidder, Cafe Nero.
Jason Souza, Cafe Nero.
Okay, so please tell us what's being proposed.
Yes, just to summarize quickly, this is an existing restaurant space, so there's a 2011 special conditional use permit that was granted for both restaurant and takeout, not incidental, but it was specific to the previous tenant. It was specific to Tasty Delight, which did frozen desserts. My client, with the authorization of the landlord, Cafe Nero has a broader menu. We've agreed to some provisos suggested by NAB, Neighborhood Association, and I'd like to summarize those. The exhaust would only be hot air, would not be fumes from cooking. The hours of operation we agreed to were 6:30 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week.
Could I ask a question?
Yes,
How do
please.
you separate that out?
I beg your pardon?
I don't understand what the difference between hot air and fumes is.
So normally restaurants would have black iron and use gas appliances. We don't do so. We use, most of our stuff comes pre-packaged and ready to serve, other than it has to be reheated. So we have an electric oven, but the electric oven creates quite a bit of heat in the kitchen, so we just put an exhaust in to exhaust off that heat so that it doesn't overheat in the kitchen.
Right, I mean, I eat almost every day at the Cafe Nero. So when I'm having my croissant and ham and cheese heated, there's an odor to it. What happens with that?
Well, that's out in the...
That's the point I'm trying to get to.
Well, that's in the front. So in the front area, we have a panini press that that heats up all the sandwiches, and that just stays in the space. But our exhausted is just in the kitchen to exhaust off heat. That's all it's for.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Just
So it's really space heat now? The heat from the space?
It's the heat from the space. So you got condensers in the walk-in coolers. You've got heat from the oven. And it's just to pull the heat off. It's a Type 2 hood.
I got it. Thank you.
And so again, the proviso was, what was the first proviso is the separation of the vending system?
Yes, separation of the vending system is described by Mr. Kidder. I can't match
Okay.
that. Hours of operation, 6:30 a.m. to 11 p.m., 7 days a week. Indoor trash storage. No deliveries in the alley before 7 a.m. And one difference, though, my understanding is it's 30 outdoor patio seats. Is that right?
Yep.
Yes. So 30 outdoor patio seats. The email from NAB had suggested 20, but it's
Because it looks like this appeal it does not speak to the outdoor patio. Is this in the front?
Yes, in the front. It's actually a basement space.
Yep.
Typical on Newbury Street, so there's an existing patio there, 60 seats indoor, 30 seats outdoor.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Plans are adequate.
Any questions from the board? I forget, is this a handicapped accessible or not?
I'm not aware. Handicap accessibility? Yeah, the landlord is providing handicap accessibility through the back.
To the rear?
Yes, there's really no other way to do it in those, that Newbury area.
Okay.
What does the elevator service?
To service the whole building. It's a 4-story building, so it'll service the whole building. And the entire building's been converted to commercial back in the 80s.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services, on behalf of Giselle Guerrero, we'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Elliot Laffer from Neighborhood Association of the Back Bay. That first proviso was very important to us because this restaurant is on the side of Newbury Street that backs up to the residences on Commonwealth Avenue. And so they agreed that there weren't going to be any cooking fumes coming out that would impact on the people across the alley. We have no objection based on the provisos that they've agreed to, and we appreciate their cooperation with us.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval.
With the usual takeout language?
Take out language.
And 6:30 to 11?
Hours, yes.
Okay. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with those provisos. We're all set.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 772-955, 131 N Street. This project scope is to change the occupancy from a two to a single-family dwelling and include the following: replacement of the existing gable roof and window dormer with a new mansard roof, addition of the rear stair head house, and remodel of the existing third-floor master bedroom level. Violations: Article 68, Section 8, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 27S, Section 5, this is in the South Boston iPod. Article 68, Section 29, roof structure restricted district. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Kristen Scanlon, 30 Rose Wharf, Suite 600. With me this morning and seated to my left is Chelsea Blanchard of Blanchard Design Studios, and also the homeowner of 131 N Street for the past 10 years, as well as a South Boston resident for the past 20 years. The proposal before you this morning is for a 350 square foot vertical addition of livable space in the rear lot of this location, as well as a roof deck in the front that would face N Street. The particular relief that we're looking to be granted is for an FAR increase from the existing 2.3 proposed to 2.6 for the roof structure restricted district and for the iPod applicability. The initial and main reason for this proposal is to accommodate the existing single-family residents of this location, where Ms. Blanchard lives with her two children who attend the nearby Perry School. As you can see from the larger package that was distributed to you this morning, it is one of the four smallest homes in both lot size and height on the block.
So, can you please just help us and go directly to the violations? So this is an FAR roof structure violation.
Correct.
So the FAR, what is required, and what will this be increasing to?
It's an existing 2.0 district, and the existing home is 2.3, and the request is to go to 2.6 with the proposed third floor addition and livable space that's going on, the purpose of which is to serve as an office area for Ms. Blanchard and study room for her children.
And this office area would there be visitors to this space, or would it be just the
Home
equivalent
office.
of a home
Yes.
office?
Yes.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, the question I have is that on the sheet that shows the mansards, there's the implication that what's happening on East Fifth is applicable to N Street. Could you address that?
Oh, that's page 7 of the large sheet, the last one. So that we included as an example of Ms. Blanchard's work. She's been a designer for the past 20 years. That's a prime example in South Boston of a restoration project she's done.
Make the case that what's good on Fifth is good on N.
No, just an example of the caliber and quality of the work that she's done in the past.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Mark Rooney. I live at 133 N Street in South Boston. I'm a direct abutter to 131 N Street. My wife and I have submitted a letter of support for the project, and I'm here this morning to support the project as well.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. Because this is within the Article 68 zoning, we can't go on record in support. However, I do want to acknowledge we did have a very positive abutters meeting. We've received many letters of support, and this project is consistent with a lot of the other buildings already on the street and in the area. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan. On behalf of the Council at Large, Michael Flaherty. Due to the fact that this falls into Article 68 and the community effort that went into drafting Article 68, the Council is unable to support this particular time. However, noting that there are projects that have merit, the Council would leave it to the discretion of the board.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jessica Rodriguez, City Councilor at Large in East Side George's office, and the Councilor would like to echo the remarks made by the Mayor's office.
Thank you. With that information, may I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval with the BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 753-708, 335 to 337 West 2nd Street. This to create additional roof deck for the unit below. The new roof deck total to be 8 on new roof decks. Violations Article 68, Section 29. Roof structure restrictions triggered for setback distance from the edge and the access via roof hatch. Name and address for the record, please.
Doug Stefanoff, 93 F Street.
So please tell us what's being
Madam
proposed.
Chair, members of the board, I come before you to ask relief to add an 8th roof deck to an approved 7 on top of 335, 337 West 2nd, otherwise known as the Trolley Building.
Thank you.
At the time I came before you for the 7, one tenant didn't want to build on top of their roof area. Since we were approved, they've changed their mind, and with extensive ISD timeline, it's taken this long to come back to you and ask relief to do the 8th deck to the existing approved 7.
Doug, what
Yes,
is
Tony.
the actual access to?
There's 2 head houses on each side that are existing, and they're all private roof decks.
And is there a screen between them?
Well, BRA design review, we just have black metal guards. Currently, there's no roof structure above them. And they're pulled back from the edge. They're not visible from the sidewalk.
Which one is the new one?
It's got a black circle around it. It's probably on this, toward the bottom. Try the drawing with the
Looking at
piers, the colored one.
A105.
I don't have a set in front of me, so.
Oh, okay.
Okay, thanks. That's the last one.
Okay, and how large is that proposed deck?
400 square feet.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal? Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood.
The only violation on this is roof structure restrictions.
Yes.
Okay.
We would like to go on record in opposition, both because of the Article 68 restricted roof structure issue, and we have received opposition from abutters to the project. Additionally, there doesn't seem to be any hardship in this case that would prevent the property from being used without the roof deck. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan. On behalf of the Council at Large, Michael Flaherty. Due to the effort that went into drafting Article 68, the Council is unable to support the project at this time. Knowing that there are projects with merit, the Council will leave it to the discretion of the board.
Motion, please.
I do have one question. Doug, are these now all built except for the ones?
No, construction stopped or never started based on waiting for this 8th. They wanted to do it as all one project. So we've been holding.
And this previously came before us?
Yes.
And what was that date roughly? How long?
About a year and a half.
Thank you.
So it's still within the 2-year
Yes,
window.
ma'am.
Right.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to grant the relief request.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
I'm
Motion-
opposed.
Oh, motion carries.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 767-195, 6 Kemble Place. This is a new detached, single-family home, 1,700 square feet, 3 stories, 1 bedroom, office, and 2.5 baths with 1-car garage. The violations, Article 68, Section 8, required lot width is insufficient. Article 68, Section 8, the required lot frontage is insufficient. Article 68, Section 8, the side yard setback requirement is insufficient. Article 68, Section 8, the rear yard setback requirement is insufficient. And Article 68, Section 8, in this residential zoning subdistrict, the main entrance of the dwelling shall face the front lot line. And Article 27S, Section .5, is in the South Boston iPod. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Ron Cavallo, 70 Victoria Street, Somerville, Mass. I'm with Tony Esposito as my engineer and Dave Karachi as my in-house architect and project manager. We propose to build a single-family house on a lot at 6 Kemble Place. Kemble Place is a private way. There was an 1860s townhouse there that burned down somewhere along the line. It's adjacent to a parcel that's owned by an abutter on the right who uses it for parking, and on the left by an abutter who has that parcel as open space. This is an infill parcel. We think that there's an argument for an as-of-right replacement of the existing structure. However, we've designed a contemporary structure that's 1,700 square feet with a 1-car parking space. It is a 1-bedroom house with a study, a master bedroom on the 3rd floor and a roof deck. There's a solar component and also an electric vehicle component to the structure. It's a slab-on-grade structure because of the fact that this parcel is a narrow lot and it is close to adjacent structures. As part of our proposal for the construction of the house, we propose a complete replacement of the infrastructure. The road is in severe disrepair. We are including as part of our proposal a complete removal of the existing road system and a full replacement of the road, correction of drainage, addressing a number of safety issues that pertain to some of the residents that include issues of lighting and safety with regard to a manhole that's in disrepair that is not under the purview of the City of Boston's DPW. The road infrastructure replacement will be supervised and controlled by my engineer who's present today. We are also including, in addition to lighting, consideration for the elderly woman that lives at the end of the private way, who is blind and in a wheelchair, and in the past has had issues in terms of access, so we're creating a pathway for her wheelchair access to the main street.
Excuse me, so this is a single-family dwelling with 3 bathrooms and 2 bedrooms.
Two and a half bathrooms, 1 bedroom, and a study.
And is one of your violations a roof deck?
No.
Are you proposing a roof deck?
We are proposing a roof deck. I do not believe the roof deck is a violation. I may be wrong in that regard.
So tell us about the roof deck.
The roof deck is approximately 16 by 14. It's off the top floor. It's depicted in the packages that I've provided. It's a green space. We're utilizing, as I said, there's a solar component, but we're using roof water and
What is the access to the roof deck? Is it sliders?
yeah, that is correct.
It is sliders?
Yes.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bizzani?
I'm sorry?
There's no parking on that side of the street, is there?
There is parking for one house.
No, on that side of the street.
Oh, on the street, no, there is no parking. There's no parking on the private way at all. There's one homeowner that bought a contiguous parcel who parks her car there.
And the width of the private way is what?
Well, it's a little bit difficult to determine. Physically, we believe it's 12 feet. It was a carriage lane for the original townhouses.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Hi, my name is Kathleen Santry. I'm here representing my mother, Barbara Santry, and the Condo Trust for 3 Kemble Place. We're fully in support of this effort, and we think it would be a betterment to the street and the neighborhood in general, and also address some safety issues for the street and lighting as well. There have been some concerns with people loitering in the open lot, some youngsters around, and I think this would be a great thing for the street.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Right, Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We can't go on record in support due to this being Article 68. However, we do want to acknowledge that we did have an abutters meeting with the proponent. He does have support from some of his neighbors, and if this project were to go forward, he would repave the road, which has been a big issue for many years. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the Council at Large, Michael Flaherty. Due to the effort that went into drafting Article 68, the Council cannot support the project at this time. Recognizing that there are projects with merit, the Council will leave it to the discretion of the board.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Oh, yeah.
Sure. Is this a one-bedroom or a two-bedroom?
It's a one-bedroom house with a home office.
Are you in opposition too?
Yes.
Oh, please, put your name and address on the record.
Hi, my name is Roberto Porcia, owner of Unit 2 at 9 P Street, representing our condo association.
So please tell us what your opposition is based on.
I also have a little package here for the members of the board. So there is a fence that separates our property from the proposed property that runs along the property line and has been in place for 27 years. There is information in the package I presented. The developer conducted a survey, which we're disputing, which claims that this fence actually encroaches his property by about 1.5 feet. Therefore, he was proposing of removing this fence that divides our properties, which has been in place for 27 years, without informing us or proposing a...
So are you we don't get involved in property dispute and survey information?
We are opposing the setbacks to the back of his unit to our property line, which, as of today, the overhangs on the second floor, as of today, would overhang into our driveway. Based on his new proposed property lines, would fall inches away of our property line. So we are opposing his setbacks. We want this plot to be developed, but we want it to be done with proper setbacks on all sides. As of today, he does not have the support of 4 out of the 5 direct abutters, which are the 3 that I'm representing on P Street, one that you'll be hearing next. The abutters he does have support is because he is repaving a private way, understandably. Last but not least, we weren't present for the first abutters meeting on site. Unfortunately, I was out of the country for work, me and my wife. Upon our return, my wife contacted the developer asking basic questions about the property, and she was forwarded an email accidentally by the developer that wasn't intended to her.
So does this apply to the zoning?
It doesn't apply to the zoning, but I think it applies to the...
No, we just need to know about the zoning, okay?
I would like to go on record and just read 2 lines from the email that, referring to my wife from the developer, that claim, "I suspect she will be made to look foolish at the planning board meeting, and in my kind and honest way, make her look like an idiot. I love a challenge." So we just think that this speaks to the character of the developer and not the right foot to enter this proposal. So we do speak in opposition.
Thank you. Is anybody else here to speak in opposition?
Yes. Hi, my name is Joe Carboni. My wife is Denise. She, her brother, and sister are Paul and Diane Kelly. They were left some property at 7 Kemble Place, which is the direct abutter of this number 6 Kemble. They received that from their uncle, who passed away as a lifetime resident, James Kelly, and their father is his brother. He's also raised in Southie. They were considering possibly moving to Southie and rebuilding, possibly to maintain the family history in Southie. However, after the site meeting on Saturday with Mr. Cavallo on the 9th, hearing what his plans were, it seemed as if his proposal, if it gets approved, it won't afford our family this opportunity. Mr. Cavello wants to put up a structure which will be directly on the property line between us. He's building wider than the footprint. He's encroaching on the setbacks. He wants to do a cantilever right up to the property line on the second level, if you look at the plans. So the setbacks in that zone, I believe, are 3 foot. The foundation is already 6 inches from one side, 2 foot 6 inches from the other. We're on the other side, which is 2 foot 6 inches. So if he goes to the property line on the second level, how does that affect our opportunity for future development? So we plan on moving up into the home with all of us, because there's 2 lots. We have 7 and 8. So does that mean?
Are your buildings, which one are your buildings? The one with the beige and the blue?
Numbers 7 and 8.
Your building is to the, building is to the left.
To the left. We have the lot number 7, which is empty right now. There's a little porch that goes out onto it from the existing structure, which is number 8.
Okay.
Does that mean, like, our setback will change?
Honestly, so you're in opposition because it's too close to the property line?
It's
the
in
bottom
violation,
line.
it's in violation of the setback, and then how will that affect our setback with fire regulations? Now my
Okay.
3 foot setback, does that
Okay,
become 6
yeah.
foot?
So, okay, so so in essence, the issue that I've heard is the setbacks, side yard setbacks from both you and the previous speaker. Anything else?
Yes, he had
Okay.
it surveyed, and we also had it
Okay,
surveyed.
So,
This-
yeah,
The property line is 2 different places.
whatever that issue is, it needs to be solved in another court. It does not get solved here.
Okay, so the side setbacks are in violation from what I understand, and then my setback becomes 6 feet. So now my 16.5-foot lot, where I can only build a
Yep.
13-foot foundation, now becomes a 10-foot lot because of the violation.
Yeah, and I'm assuming that when you go to construction, you too will meet the side yard requirement.
That's what I'm saying. I can meet the side yard requirement, which is 3 feet, but I can't meet it if he goes right to the property line.
So so thank you. Thank you.
I do have one further question. On the original, is this the original plan which shows an unenclosed parking?
I believe.
I'm seeing 2 plans here. One
There are-
has an
yes, there are
enclosed
2
parking,
plans.
the other has an unenclosed.
That is correct. We presented the original plan that went before.
Okay, so what are you proposing today? Enclosed parking, i.e. a garage, or simply?
Well, the enclosed garage plan has an entrance to the side, which is one of the violations. And we assumed that that is our preferred plan. There's a walkway to that side entrance.
Well, my concern is that I think you're asking us to arbitrate between your own designs.
Right.
You presented 2 designs.
That is correct.
And we don't do that. You're the architect. You have to come forth with, this is what we're doing.
We were concerned that our original plan with the side entrance would be not accepted by this board. And as such, we proposed a second plan that has a front entrance. I would like to state that this.
Hold on.
Sure.
Your box, however, under both scenarios stays the same.
Exactly correct.
So we can go ahead and make a decision for this applicant. Should there be a motion in support of this proposal? Mr. Pisani?
Well,
Yep.
I guess you could do it that way.
Yeah. Because, okay, so given all this information, what is the motion?
I'd like to make a motion for denial without prejudice.
Excellent. May I have a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're opposed to denial without prejudice. Okay, so that gives you a chance to take a step back and rework it and appear before us whenever you're ready. Okay? Next case, please.
Calling next case, calling BOA 769-217, 149 West 8th Street. West 8th Street. This is a full interior renovation of an existing three-family dwelling and extend living space to the basement for Unit 1. Violation of Article 68, Section 27S-5. It's in the South Boston iPod. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, members of the board. My name is Richard Scipione, Lighthouse Construction, and I'm here with Principal Owner Jason Foster.
So tell us about this proposed extension to the basement.
Sure. If I could just take 30 seconds and just give you the backdrop of this. We had met with Plans and Zoning in July, where we verified there were no zoning violations, at which point we pulled a demolition permit for the project while we went and finished up the architecturals and engineers. Once we submitted those drawings, iPod applicability kicked into place, so we were stuck in a position where we had already sat down, pulled the demo permit, and so forth. With that being said, this is a full renovation of an existing three-family dwelling with no extension of footprint, no roof extensions. Everything is inside the existing envelope.
So tell us about the extension to the basement. Tell us what the floor-to-ceiling height is and what the use of the basement is.
The basement will consist of 2 bedrooms and 1 bath to expand the living space and make it more grandiose for the first floor unit. The ceiling heights are 8 feet. There are 3 window wells, all to code and meet all applicable standards for egress, and the building is fully sprinkled.
And that unit will have how many bedrooms? The 3 bedrooms in the basement, and that's it?
2 in the basement. Yeah.
2 bedrooms in the basement?
Correct. And 2 on the first floor.
And 2 on the first floor?
The existing building was a 332, and the proposed is a 334.
So it was a 332, and it's now becoming a 334?
In terms of bedroom size, yes.
Okay. And the only violation was the iPod.
The only violation was iPod, and due to the circumstances and the timing and the condition of the building, inspectional services allowed us to move forward with a building permit for windows and siding to get the envelope.
How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
Plans are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support. We did have an on-site abutters meeting at which people were supportive of the project. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan. On behalf of the council at large, Michael Flaherty. Due to the work that went into drafting Article 68, the council is unable to support at this particular time, but recognizes that there are merits to certain proposals and will leave it to the prudence of the board.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
That's just confusing.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Are there any deferrals for 10:30 or withdrawals for 10:30? Joe? Address?
Just a reminder to those who are requesting deferrals, we are, as I've been negligent to remind everybody, are not inclined to approve very many ongoing deferrals. So when you ask for a deferral, you better make sure there's a community process in place. We meet regularly. We need to ensure that with the holidays, community groups are meeting regularly so that there is less need for deferrals when projects come before us. Go ahead.
No, Councilor, just get the address, please.
Yes, sir. 26 Bardwell Street. Make a complaint.
For the record, calling BOA 767-754, 26 Bardwell Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Attorney Joe Hanley, McDermott, Quilty Miller, 28 State Street in Boston, on behalf of the appellant. Madam Chair, this is a first request, so it's not an ongoing deferral. We had a meeting with the Neighborhood Association this month, and they had asked us to return in January as one of our direct abutters was unable to participate in the initial outreach. And so we would ask for a very short deferral so that we can return to the neighborhood group in January, which has already been scheduled, and host another abutter meeting which has also been scheduled for January.
Motion to defer.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please.
January 30th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any other deferrals or withdrawals for 10:30? Hearing none, we'll call the first case. Calling BOA 750-433, 69 Rutland Street. This is to construct a bracket-supported balcony on the rear of an existing building for the second-floor unit, convert window to door opening, and installing new door. The violations, Article 64, Section 9.4, Townhouse Row House Extension. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Timothy Burke. I'm the architect for the project. My address is 142 Berkeley Street in Boston.
Tell us what's being proposed.
Yes, thank you for this opportunity to present. My client is a school teacher, Abigail Huber. She could not be here today. She's in school. She lives on the middle level of a 3-unit condominium in the south end. She has no exterior space, so we're proposing this small balcony on the rear of the building to provide her some outdoor area. The balcony is 6 feet by 14 feet. It's supported on brackets.
And it looks like it's going to match the abutters?
That is correct, yes.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Tim, I do have one question here. The downspout does not indicate the property line division between the units, does it?
That is correct. It's right down the middle of the building.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Faisal Sharif, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We are in support of the applicant's project. We did hold an abutters meeting. Unfortunately, there weren't any attendees, but it does fit in with the character of what's happening in the back of that building. It's a very straightforward project, and we're not in opposition to decks in the south end. Thank you.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you.
Calling BOA 711-992, 3012 Washington Street. Washington Street, okay. This is new construction to a house programs spaces, daycare for 32 affordable residents for the Elizabeth Stone House. Site to include 20 parking spaces. The violations, Article 50, Section 19, offices on basement and first floors are conditional. Article 50, Section 20, building height is excessive. Article 50, Section 20, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. And Article 50, Section 43, number of off-street parking spots is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Louis Miller. I'm with the law firm of Rackman, Sawyer & Brewster, 160 Federal Street. I'm here with Kitty Ryan, our architect, and Marianne Chason, the Director of Operations for Elizabeth Stonehouse. Thank you very much for hearing us. I hope gave you the plans that you were looking for, which we didn't realize you didn't have. Thank you.
So please tell us briefly what's being proposed and speak to the violations.
Certainly. We were here about 2.5 years ago with basically the same project that was approved at that time. Since then, we've gone through review of financing, of the market, et cetera. The basic change that we've made is to go from 27 housing units to 32, basically reducing the size.
Sorry, 27 to 32?
32. It's the same basic volume. The market, finance, et cetera, dictated that we reduce the size. Elizabeth Stone is a provider of social services, has been doing it since the 80s.
So tell us then, if you're increasing the number of units, did the unit sizes change?
Yes, unit sizes are somewhat smaller.
What are they?
Kitty, what are the unit sizes?
There's studios to 3 bedrooms. So the studios are within the guidelines. They're over 500 square feet, and the majority of the units are 2-bedroom units.
And what's the square footage for a two bedrooms?
They're 900.
And the 3 bedrooms?
3 bedrooms are
1,100. Okay, and did the initial proposal also have daycare proposed in it?
Yes.
And 20 parking spaces?
Yes.
Okay.
So really, the only change is the increase in the number of units.
It's the increase in number of units and time that we had to go through to make sure we had financing, et cetera, which is why we had to come back in as opposed to extend it. Yes.
And the design is exactly the same?
Is it?
Bassani?
Very nice.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support on behalf of Josh McFadden. They went through an extensive BRA process, and they also held an abutters meeting, which went very well. All of the abutters who were present have expressed support to date. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez from City Council at Large in East Side George's office, and the council would also like to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the Council at Large, Michael Flaherty, Council to go on support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez, representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record in support of the Elizabeth Stonehouse project.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval, BPDA design review.
Second.
All
Is
those-
this an Article 80 project, by the way?
No.
No.
Well, small project, I'm sorry, small project review.
Small project.
Yes, yes.
Is there a second? All those in
Aye.
favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good
Thank you
luck.
very much, appreciate it, thank you for your time.
Calling BOA 757-542, 3147 to 3149 Washington Street. This is a change of occupancy from a three-family dwelling to a four-family dwelling and renovate the top floor and create 4 parking spaces. The violations, Article 9, Section 2, non-conforming use change. A variance is required to change from an existing non-conforming use to another non-conforming use. Article 55, Section 17, the proposed attic unit creates an excessive FAR. And Article 55, Section 40, off-street parking design, access to the parking shall be located entirely within the lot in which it serves. Name and address for the record, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano with an address of 15 Broad Street. Representing Josh Fetterman from City Realty on the right. And we have Tony Carrier from Culture Design as the architect. We're seeking to change the occupancy, as mentioned, from the existing 3-family dwelling to a 4-family dwelling, renovating the top floor and creating 4 rear parking spaces through a shared driveway on the right-hand side. The building will also be fully sprinklered as per code. The particular unit is actually framed but was never legalized when my client purchased the property. It's a multifamily district in the area, although it's local convenience zone. There are a number of multifamily, larger apartment-style complexes. The unit sizes, Unit 1 is 1,400 square feet. Unit 2 is 1,400 square feet. Unit 3, 1,372, and then the new proposed unit's 1,000 roughly square feet. We did get the support of both the JPNC and the Eggleston Square Group from the community. We also had a good abutters meeting from our direct abutters. And just to point out a fact, our bedroom count will actually remain the same. So it's currently 11 bedrooms in Unit 3. It's an actual 4-bedroom right now. In our reconfiguration, we're getting rid of that bedroom, so that'll become a 3, and with the 1-bedroom unit on the top floor, the unit count would stay the same, and we are creating those 4 parking spaces in the rear of the property. I can go over the violations as well. As mentioned, it's a multifamily residential proposed, and so which triggered a violation, and then our FAR 1.0 is required, although we're pre-existing non-conforming, we are at 1.6. And then our parking design, because of the shared driveway, it triggered a violation.
And is that, do you have easements both ways?
Correct, yes.
Okay. And tell us about the floor-to-ceiling height in the attic.
Yes, the ceiling height is 7'11".
7'11"?
Yes.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Bassani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any other questions from the board?
The parking is included in the drawings. I mean, that's already there, right?
Yeah, so the driveway is there, it just didn't extend into the back. The driveway is existing.
What's it now?
It's just sort of gravel and open space in the rear yard.
And the curb cut's there, you're saying?
I'm sorry?
You're saying that the curb cut exists?
Correct.
Okay. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Alexandra Valdez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I would like to go on record to support and receiving that they did get support from the community from both neighborhood associations. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Will Poff Webster here with City Councilor Matt O'Malley. The council would also like to go on record in support of the project. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan, on behalf of the Council at Large Michael Flaherty, council to go on record in support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jessica Rodriguez from City Council at Large Denise Ivy George's office, and the council would also like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve, continue with DPH. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you. Calling BOA 719-968-7-9 Warner Street.
Sorry, just to clarify, that was just straight approval.
Yeah, there are no exterior changes.
Okay.
This is new construction of a 4-unit multifamily building on vacant land. Violation to Article 10, Section 1, the limitation of area of no off-street parking allowed in the required front yard setback on Bernard Street. Article 60, Section 8, multifamily dwelling unit is a forbidden use. Article 60, Section 40, off-street parking design, the size minimum of 8 by 5, 20 by 0 for 50% at 7 feet and 18 feet for 50%. Violation to Article 60, Section 9, the height is excessive at 35 feet. Article 60, Section 9, the lot area for additional dwelling units is insufficient. Article 60, Section 9, the floor to area ratio is excessive. Article 60, Section 9, the required front yard setback is insufficient. And Article 60, Section 9, the required side yard setback is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Harold Raymond, 998 Metropolitan Ave, Milton.
Darrell Crease, 5 Holiday Street, Dorchester, Massachusetts.
So tell us what's being proposed.
Okay, what's being proposed is we have a vacant lot, which is about 6,000 square feet. It's been vacant for several years. What we're looking at doing is building 4 units of rental housing duplex on the site there. It's about 3 blocks from Talbot Ave T station. So it's a lot of vacant land in that area. Looking at working with the neighbors and improving it. Right across the street, there's some multifamily, about 12 units that have been built. So what we're doing is infilling in the area. We did meet with the resident association in August, and everyone's like, yeah, we need more housing along the Fairmont line. We do have a petition with about 40 people from the neighborhood that has signed. So we're looking at, and the owner here, Mr. Cerise, is gonna be living in the housing, so be the owner occupied.
How long has the site been vacant?
At least, I owned it at least 15 years that I know of. So it's been probably vacant even longer than that. And they use it for trash. Every year I have to spend thousands of dollars cleaning it up.
So let's just back up. Harold, can you go through the violations? Because these are quite a number of violations, and it looks like the street pattern from this visual that's been submitted, looks like there are 3 families pretty consistently, maybe even 2.
And then right across the street is 12 units.
No, yes, but I'm just looking at the pattern. So
let me
talk
just
about your violations.
Okay, limitation of parking. Basically, the parking's in the back, so there's plenty enough room for parking. That's right there. Multifamily.
Tell us, because do you have an issue with the parking design? What are the dimensions of that parking? Does it meet to the standards?
Yeah, because we have, we're going to go through design review, so.
No, but we just want to know what's before us.
Okay,
if
we
you're
have-
appealing the dimensions of the parking.
Okay, so we have 4 parking spaces, which are in the rear. Those spaces are about.
But it's in the rear, but it's access off the street.
Yeah, because it's a full lot.
Why isn't that front yard parking on that street?
One thing is that the grade drops down to here.
No,
So
I understand that. But the point I'm getting to is that because the parking enters off the back street, which is not really a back street, and parking is right to the edge of the sidewalk, therefore, why isn't that front yard parking on that street? Because the building alignment on that street would be either modal or to the lot line.
And if the grade drops, have you looked at having a garage and just a driveway with a garage?
No, because of the expense of building a parking garage
No,
there.
we also have to think about our responsibility here and how the relief we grant goes with the property and not with the owners, and doesn't really go with costs. Because you are asking for a 4-family in a 3-family district.
Yeah, it's almost like we have a party wall down the center, so it's almost like 2 row houses with 2 units separated. So that's how I sort of look at it.
Okay,
there.
so tell us about an alternate to that parking plan.
We can have 1 curb cut since we have enough area back here. 1 curb cut and sort of do some combination of 4 parking spaces. The problem with the parking up front is this is a very busy street, Warner Street. This is a very quiet street, so you don't want to be parking out and running into cars there. So this can be redesigned since we have enough open space back there.
Okay. Tell us about the FAR height.
Okay, the FAR is 1.0. Required is 0.8. We wanted to have enough room. We didn't want to make small units. The units are about 1,700 square feet, duplex units, so we didn't want to make these sort of mini units because each of the units have 3 bedrooms. So that's where that comes in. The height, what we wanted to do was, let me just go to the elevation here. So what we wanted to do on the elevation is we have potential future expansion space of about 600 square feet for the upper unit. We wanted to sort of give it a little architectural character, and also there's another building across the street which is also 4 floors. Several of the buildings on this street is almost 4 floors there.
So the thing is, so the height is, what? What's required and what's proposed?
Yeah, if we took the roof off, it would be up to what the code is. We just added this to give it a little bit more expansion space and a little bit of architectural character.
Let me just ask the question again. What's required and what are you proposing? Required is 35 and you're proposing 40?
45.
45 and required is 35?
Yeah, 35.
Okay. And then the front and rear yards?
The front yard is basically the mobile setback. All the buildings are near the sidewalk.
Okay.
The rear yard is about 38 feet. I think it requires 40 feet, so we're about 2 feet off there.
Okay. And access to all parking is from the rear?
Yeah.
Okay.
Just here.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Okay. Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Morning, Flavio De Vega, Mayor's Office Neighborhood Services. We did have a meeting with WOW Coalition as well as the Buddhists, and they're in support of this project. We'll go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Jawan Skeens from Councilor Andrea Campbell's office, and we would like to go on record in support of this project.
My name is Lydia. I'm here to support on Darroch's project.
What is your address, please?
5 Holiday Street.
Okay, thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve, but with the following provisos. One is that the height be zoning compliant, that is to say 35 feet. And the other is that you revisit the parking scheme that you have.
That's with design review?
Continuing BPDA design review.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
I
opposed?
do have just one question. We're making sure that there's no front yard parking there?
Yep.
All right, I'm in favor.
Okay, so that's good. If you need to come to board final arbiter, we'd welcome a visit,
Yep.
okay? Thank you.
Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 773-858, 6 Elvin Street. This is a proposed 5-unit residential townhouse building. The violations, Article 60, Section 9. The lot area per dwelling unit is insufficient. Article 60, Section 9. Open space is insufficient. Article 60, Section 9. The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 60, Section 9. Front yard is insufficient. Article 60, Section 8. More than 3 units is forbidden. Article 60, Section 9.3. The main entrance must face the front lot line. Name and address for the record, please.
Hi there, Justin Masterman at 745 Atlantic, the attorney representing the developer, Antoine Webb.
Antoine Webb, 6 Evelyn Street.
And then our architect is over there, Joe Luna.
Luna Design Group Architect.
So please tell us what's being proposed.
So we're proposing a 5-unit townhouse building, 1,500 square foot, 3-bedroom units, all are essentially identical on a currently vacant lot in Mattapan. They will all be condo units.
And it looks like there are a number of violations. Can you walk through them, tell us what's required and what's being proposed?
Sure. I'll just go down the refusal letter. The first violation was a lot area per dwelling unit violation. It's a 9,000 square foot lot, and there's a 3,000 square foot minimum per unit. So we have 9,000 and we're need 15,000. So the lot is too small to accommodate 5 units, which we think, based on 2 abutters meetings and a community meeting, are something that the community is excited about.
Tell us about the open space.
Open space, we're providing 400 square feet of usable open space per dwelling unit. We also have roof decks or 3rd level open balconies for each of the units, and the minimum is 600 per unit.
How about the FAR?
FAR is essentially a very, very minor technical violation. I think our calculation is 0.82, and 0.8 is the requirement.
And the 5-family use is a forbidden use. And tell us why the main entrance cannot be facing the street?
It's a very, very narrow, deep lot, and there's not enough room for a driveway to access the parking area in the back. It's a there's very little frontage on Evelyn Street. So in order to accommodate the units, we had to turn them perpendicular to the lot, to the Evelyn Street entrance.
And so you couldn't adjust any of the doors so there was an entrance on the first?
Joe might be able to explain a little better the design.
The project is designed as essentially townhouses. There is one front wall that runs along the driveway side. And as council just pointed out, it's an elongated lot, and we located all the entries along one primary side as townhouses.
I mean, we have seen very similar situations like this where by in fact staggering the units, all the front doors face the street.
I think
it means that you change some deck sizes. That's the only.
Well, we would have to actually change unit sizes. We've got a 2-lane driveway.
What are your unit sizes?
They're roughly 1,500 square feet, 500 square foot footprint.
And how many bedrooms?
3 bedrooms.
Tell us about the roof decks.
The roof decks are on the 3rd floor. Each unit has its own individual roof deck. The roof deck is it can be accessed from the living area spaces, but it also has direct access with the master bedroom above. In addition to the roof deck, each unit has a small defensible yard space off the back side of the property as well.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
And so there is a solution to the main entrance?
Yeah, I mean, there is an architectural solution.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
What is the method of access to the roof decks?
The roof decks are accessed internally through each unit. There is an internal stair in each unit that will take you up to the 3rd floor master bedroom, and then There is also direct access from the living areas downstairs. No, it's not through a hatch, it's through the actual third floor.
And parking, how many parking spaces?
One per unit.
One, is that what's required?
Yes.
Okay. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Whitney Celestin for the Office of Neighborhood Services. We support this project and welcome the homeownership aspect of this project. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board, Walt Chapwhite, Council McCarthy's office. We'd also like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to approve the project with the following provisos. That Parsec, and that is not grant approval for not having the front entrance out on the street. There's a design solution to this. You can work it out. The units are very large, and with continued BRA design review.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
I'm sorry, can you just, I couldn't really hear you.
Okay. We're approving the project.
Yep.
But you're going to change it so that the front doors face the street
Okay, and design review.
with BPDA design review for that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. I have a request from a board member for a 10-minute break, so we will break until 11:10. I get this. Can we have the next applicant, please?
Calling BOA 763-318, 233 Hancock Street. This is to demolish an existing one-story auto repair shop, construct a new 5-story steel and wood structure containing 36 residential units, 22 surface parking spaces, retail, and art gallery. Violations, Article 65, Section 8, a multifamily dwelling is forbidden. Article 65, Section 8, retail is forbidden. Article 65, Section 8, art gallery is forbidden. Article 65, Section 41, if off-street parking is insufficient. Article 65, Section 41, off-street loading is insufficient. Article 65, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 65, the height is excessive. Article 65, the front yard is insufficient. Article 65, Section 9, the side yard is insufficient. And Article 65, Section 9, the rear yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Attorney John Pulgini, 10 Forbes Road, Braintree. With me this morning are Dan and Benji Mall, as well as their architect, Eric Robinson from Rhodey Architecture. So the proposal before you is take an existing lot, which currently has 2 auto body shops on it. The lot size is 13,362 square feet. It has a right-of-way access of 2,352 square feet, which we'll be using to access the parking at grade concealed within the building. The proposal is to replace these 2 auto body repair shops with a 5-story, 29,000 square foot mixed-use building, 36 residential apartments, ground floor retail space, as well as a lobby and gallery space, which will have access to the public, with 21 parking spaces. The unit breakdown are 12 studio units, approximately 475 square feet, 12 one-bedroom units, approximately 620 square feet, 8 two-bedroom units, approximately 830 square feet, and 4 three-bedroom units, approximately 950 square feet. This proposal went through an extensive Article 80 process with the BPDA, approximately 26 meetings, including 20 meetings with the butters and neighbors. We provided the board this morning with 50 letters of support, including 3 support letters from the abutters most impacted by this development.
Why don't you go through, what zoning district is this in?
So the zoning district we're in is a 3F 5000,
Okay.
right, currently used as auto body
Pardon?
shop.
No,
3F
I
5000.
understand, but then this proposal cites 3 forbidden uses, which is the multifamily, the retail, and the garage. So everything proposed here essentially is forbidden. So And can you walk through the dimensional regulations, what the violations are?
Absolutely. So the FAR in this sub-district is 1. The proposed before you is 2.2. Height allowed is 35 feet. The proposal before you is 56 feet. Parking is 1.5, which would equal 60 spots. We're at 21 spots, which is 0.58. Front yard is 5 feet or modal. We're at 1 feet 10 inches, and that was by design through the design process. Rear yards.
So that was is that modal, 1 foot?
There really is, the modal associated with that block is so inconsistent that the edge was brought forward to create the street edge on this particular property.
And that's 1.5?
Yes, which allows for, and the site is sort of angular, so at the tightest place, I think we're about a 10-foot sidewalk, and then it increases up to 18 feet on the farthest because of the pie shape of the site.
Rear yard, Madam Chair, is 30 feet. The proposal is 20 foot 9 inches. And the side yard is 10. Proposal is 5 foot 8 inches on the left, 1 foot 6 inches on the right. As I said, it went through a spirited community process. The letters that you have are the direct abutters support letters, as well as both the Columbia Savin Hill Civic Association, as well as the Jones Hill Civic Association support letters. Additionally, this proposal will provide 5 affordable housing, which is in excess of the IDP requirement, as well as, if there's a picture there, removing 2 blighted billboards that currently sit above the current auto body shops and are an eyesore to the neighborhood.
And are there any decks associated with this?
Part of the community process was initially there was a roof deck that was proposed, but actually at 6 floors. Through that community process, it was brought down to 5 floors, and the roof deck was eliminated.
Without plans, tell us how the parking works.
So there's a double-loaded parking corridor on the rear of the building that's accessed through the common property. So you pull in on the left-hand side and around behind. So the parking is behind the retail lobby and other space, gallery space.
And this parking is for the residential uses?
Correct.
Is it dedicated to residential use?
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Yes. There might be one space that, we're contemplating potentially moving our offices to the area, so we might use one space for our offices, but the rest will largely be for residential uses.
And is this 22 or 21 parking spaces?
So we're at 22 in the documents. We've been revising based on some dimensional things, and we think we're going to be closer to 21. There's a question of the actual transformer location on the site. So what we did was we reduced it to 21 parking spots.
In addition, the right-of-way currently is being used as parking by both ourselves and our neighbors. So there would be potential to park 1 or 2 more spaces there as well. Because the right-of-way doesn't go through it. It backs up into ledge, so there will be no one else using that right-of-way.
Okay.
Madam Chair, the 3-bedroom units, what is the square footage on it?
Small, 950.
950.
Oh.
Yeah, all these units are on the small side. How did that happen?
So here we're trying to build middle-income housing, and the goal essentially was to keep total rents of the project below comparable Class A product in both Dorchester and the greater Boston area. In order to do that, we believe that we can have smaller units and rent them for a lower price point, so that the rent essentially per square foot will generally come out in line, so that we'll be able to get the financing for the project.
And how are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board?
How far is that from the Strand? I'm trying to imagine.
The Strand,
So probably a 5-minute drive, 10-minute walk.
yeah, just probably 6 points. It's about,
It's toward the Dorchester Avenue side.
That's helpful. That actually is very helpful.
so yeah, it's about a 11-minute walk to the Savin Hill T-stop, and about the same distance towards Upham's Corner as well.
Have you selected a contractor for the project?
No, we haven't. We're just waiting to get through today.
All right, well, I was just raising that because within the multi-unit residential sector, there's historic problems of wage theft and the underground economy, and I would strongly urge you to take that into consideration when making
We absolutely will.
being responsible.
I had that discussion with them yesterday.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Flavio De Vega, Mayor's Office, Neighborhood Services, would like to go on record in support of this application. As mentioned, we have had many meetings. The applicant was very responsive to addressing the community concerns. We'll go on record in support of this application. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Joe McEachran, City Councilor Frank Baker's office would also like to go on record in support. We've had many meetings, and the applicant had a very robust process, and we're happy to support.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Minor Perez, representing the Carpenters Union, would like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to approve with continued BPA design review. I also wanted to thank you for your efforts and hard work in the neighborhood.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set. Good luck.
Thank you. Calling the next case, calling BOA 753-496, 37 to 39 Thetford Avenue. There's also building code, BOA 753-495, 37 to 39 Thetford Avenue. Is Thetford Avenue here? Okay. This is to extend living space from the second floor to the basement. The violation is Article 65, Section 9. The floor-to-area ratio is excessive. This is the building code. Chapter 3 definition of a dwelling unit. A unit must be completely independent. Note that the extension of the second floor to the basement does not make the unit independent. Since the stair connecting the second floor to the basement is a common stair, it serves both units. Name and address for the record, please.
39 Thetford Ave.
Your name?
Antonio Barbosa.
And who is Rui Rodriguez? Who is Rui Rodriguez?
Rui Rodriguez, the contractor, is not here.
Okay, so you're the owner?
Yeah.
Okay, so tell us about how the unit, the bedroom in the basement is connected to the second floor unit.
Yeah, you got two back doors. One back door access to 37 to the basement. The basement to connect to the second floor. You got the basement to go straight to kitchen to the second floor.
Straight to the kitchen?
Yeah.
And can the first floor get into that hallway?
The 37 got access to the basement.
Mr. Pisani.
Confusing. How many bedrooms are down there?
And 39 is 4 bedroom.
4 in the basement.
Yeah.
And how many up on the second floor?
Second floor is 39 is the second floor.
No.
How many bedrooms on the second floor?
It's a 4 bedroom.
So 4 bedrooms on the second floor and 4 bedrooms in the basement?
No, basement is not, nothing is there.
Do you have an architect?
Yes.
Where is your architect?
Is he here?
It's not here.
Okay, so let's make
I want to make a motion for deferral until he comes back with his architect. I mean, the drawings really are very confusing. On the basis of what you've shown, and without a professional explanation, this board would be inclined to deny this, but I think we give you the benefit of coming back with your architect and his drawings to have a little more clarity.
Is there a motion?
That's a motion. Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? The date, please.
January 30th.
January 30th at 11:30, right here. Come with your architect.
Okay.
And Flavio, you'll help. Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 769-194, 915 Hyde Park Avenue. This is a change legal occupancy from a 3-family to a 4-family. Violations Article 69, Section 29, parking is insufficient. Article 69, Section 8, the multifamily dwelling is forbidden. Article 69, Section 8, the basement units are forbidden. Article 69, Section 9, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 69, Section 9, usable open space is insufficient. Article 69, Section 9.3, the main entrance must face the front lot line. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Attorney John Pulgini, 10 Forbes Road, Braintree. With me this afternoon is Tony Ferrara, who's the owner-developer of this project. Before we start, I would like to say that the package that has just been given to you, the ISD issued a new updated refusal letter, and on that refusal letter, they eliminated the parking violation. So that's no longer a violation.
So please tell us what's being proposed.
So the 915 High Park Ave lays in a 2F5000 zoning. The prior, when he purchased the property, it was used as a four-family with an illegal studio apartment in the back. So this was an existing. So the proposal here is to legalize that. The neighborhood itself is very mixed use. If you people are familiar with it, it's diagonally across from America's Food Basket strip mall, and then it's near Sereno's, has a plant where they at one point made pastas and dinners, and then also Rocket Cleaners is a few doors up, which also has a...
Hold on, tell us about this unit, because am I reading this right? This is a proposed 426 square foot unit?
It is. So looking at the property, there's an existing addition that goes off of this building, and it's on several of the buildings in that area. And that existing structure is 426 square feet.
Now there is, and so the rest of it, okay, the rest of the building has 3-bedroom units.
That's correct.
And with offices, okay? So is there any way to bring this unit and make it larger in some way, shape, or form?
There is. I think there's potential of bringing it in some sections, and we would be able to at least get that over 500 square feet.
Yeah?
As a studio apartment.
So where do you propose that happens?
Sure. In the area where it's highlighted for the proposed fire suppression tanks, ideally I'd like to keep the furnaces where they are to give access to the other units with that stairwell that comes down. Yeah. And I would basically expand out that space, from a drawing perspective where you're looking at it to the right of the furnaces, and drop the bathroom, excuse me, down in that lower area and create the 75 to extra 100 square feet down in that area where the proposed fire expansion tanks are. So I would move those further to the front of the dwelling and make a bathroom down in that area, and that would open up where the bathroom is now laid out into living area for the unit.
There's a solution to this.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the access to the unit?
So there's 2 exterior exit doors, one on the left-hand side of the building that comes down along the driveway side, and one in the very rear of the building. There is a 3rd exit point that leads out from this layout that goes into the basement area as well, where that unit would have access to storage.
Okay. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
With the talked about changes, they're adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Brian Flynn with the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. And about his meeting was held on October 16th with no opposition from the community. We want to go on the record in support of this proposal. Thank you.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to grant the relief requested with the following proviso, that the unit be increased to a minimum of 550 square feet, and that that drawing be submitted to the board prior to signature.
Mr. Pisani, how many square feet did you say?
Make it 550.
550.
Okay.
Second.
Is there a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're
you
all
very
set.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Calling the next 2 cases, calling BOA 763-856, 279 Lamartine Street. The companion case BOA 763-860, 281 Lamartine Street. This is for 279 Lamartine. This is to erect a new 3-family residential structure with parking on a vacant lot. The violation is Article 55, Section 9. The lot area for additional dwelling unit is insufficient. Article 55, Section 9, the lot frontage is insufficient. Article 55, Section 9, lot width is insufficient. Article 55, Section 9, floor area ratio is excessive. Article 55, Section 9, the height is excessive. Article 55, Section 55-40, off-street parking is insufficient. This is for 281 Lamartine. This is to erect a new two-family residential structure, 2.5 stories with parking in basement on vacant land, and an existing structure to be raised. The violation is Article 55, Section 9. The lot frontage is insufficient. Article 55, Section 9, lot width is insufficient. Article 55, Section 9, the floor to area ratio is excessive. Article 55, Section 9, the height is excessive. Name and address for the record, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Attorney Nick Zazula with McDermott, Quilty & Miller, 28 State Street here in Boston. To my immediate left is Attorney Joe Hanley, also from McDermott, Quilty & Miller. To my far left is David O'Sullivan from O'Sullivan Architects, who is the architect on the project. And to my immediate right is Nick Legris, who is the property owner and appellant in this matter. We've passed out to the board this morning a memorandum and some handouts with the plans detailing our variance case, as well as the substantial modifications and outreach that these two projects have gone through over the past year. 279 and 281 Lamartine are situated between Lamartine Place and Biltmore Street in Jamaica Plain, right up near the Southwest Corridor Park. Nick and his LLC own both of these parcels of underutilized land. 279 Lamartine is about 6,074 square feet. It is a vacant property. And 281 Lamartine is approximately 5,500 square feet, and that is an existing single-family dwelling. As you can see from the plans and the memo that we passed out, there is a significant grade change from the rear of the site to the front of the site, roughly 25 to 30 feet on each individual site. The immediate area on Lamartine is a mix of single, two, and three-family residential buildings, varying sizes, varying architectural design, although some of the newly built and approved projects on Lamartine are of a 4 or 5 unit variety. And so what we're proposing today is, again, two separate projects. On 279 Lamartine is a 3-family residential structure with 3 on-site parking spaces, approximately 6,100 square feet of gross floor area. And on 281 Lamartine, a 2-family residential structure, again with 3 on-site parking spaces with approximately 4,683 square feet of gross floor area. This is a 3F 5,000 zone, so there's no use variance required for the 2 or 3 family structure. And briefly, again, we've gone through an extensive community outreach process, had 4 official neighborhood abutter meetings, several other individual meetings. Yes, ma'am.
We'll hear from that from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. So can you please speak to the violations that are before us?
Yes.
Can you go through them? Because I'm sure they're similar for both pieces of property.
Yes, ma'am. So on the 3-family at 279 Lamartine Street, we were cited for six variances. The first is for lot area insufficient. In order to have 3 units on that lot, you need to have 7,000 square feet of lot area. That lot is 6,074 square feet, so we're a little over 900 square feet off for that 3rd unit. Lot frontage and lot width insufficient are both 40 feet, and the 279 Lamartine is 39 foot existing. So we're 1 foot off, and that's an existing condition, which is typical up and down Lamartine. A lot of these lots are under 40 feet in width and frontage. In terms of floor area ratio, 0.6 is what's required. And on the 3-family, we're currently at an FAR of 1. And the building height excessive is 35 feet. Although we are 34 feet 7 inches at average grade, we are 41 feet from the sidewalk to the roof. Because this lot is significant grade change, if this was a flat lot, we would comply with building height. Because of the grade change from the rear to the front, we're requesting a variance for height. Finally, we were cited for off-street parking insufficient for the 3-family, but we are providing 3 parking spaces for the 3 units, which is in compliance with the zoning code. By the time we had noticed this, we had already filed the appeal, and in our discussions with ISD, they said we couldn't revise the refusal letter after we had filed the appeal. So we actually are compliant. Moving on to the other lot, which you had asked about, it's very similar. 281 Lamartine, this is the two-family. Again, lot frontage is 40 feet, lot width is 40 feet. We're at 38 feet 5 inches on lot frontage and 36 feet 2 inches on lot width. Again, existing condition that anything we built on the lot would have those violations. Floor area ratio, again, 0.6, and this is only at 0.84, so a minimal variance of 0.24 over the requirement. And again, the building height excessive, this one is only a foot, 1 foot 4 inches above what's allowed. But again, this lot also has that 25 to 30 foot grade change, and we would submit that if this was a flat lot, the buildings would be compliant with height.
And has this piece of property been before this board before?
No, ma'am.
No, nothing in the record?
So we've not, these properties have not been heard by the board before. We had a 6-unit development on a combined lot where we combined the two lots to 279 and 281 to make one lot. After a lot of discussion with the community, that was asked to be separated and reduced. So we withdrew that, I think it was in the summer, and we refiled with the zoning board, with the city, with a 2 and a 3. So as a result of that withdrawal, we reduced the unit count, we reduced the total square footage of the two buildings by about 2,500 square feet. And I would also note that both of these projects comply with all setback requirements, including a rear yard, which is either 47 feet or 50 feet in great excess of the 20-foot rear yard setback, which is a result of that grade change. Complies with the side yard and the front yard, and we also provide more than 40% of the usable open space that is required in this zoning subdistrict.
How does the parking look?
So the parking, and David can correct me if I'm wrong, but the parking is, as part of this redesign, the parking at one point was to be underneath the building, the 6-unit building. What we're doing is we're using a center curb cut between the two properties. So there's only one curb cut, and each respective sets of parking is on their own lot, but there will be one means of access in and out of the lot in terms of the center kind of corridor with 2 garage spaces under the building and 1 spot each at the end of the lot, as you can see on the plan, kind of up against the retaining wall at the rear of the building.
And what are the unit sizes?
So the unit sizes vary. The two-family, I believe the two-family is about 2,500 square feet, and the other one is a little bit less than that. And the three-family, the 2 of the three-family units are 1,735, and I believe the other unit is 2549. And we actually, in our memo, we provided a floor area ratio study and a unit size study. In those studies, you'll see that these units are, the bigger units are on the larger size of the spectrum. However, they are in line with the newer units that have been approved on the street. Also, I know that as part of BPDA design review, we've been in discussion with the city to potentially reduce some of those larger units to make them even more comparable to what's in the neighborhood.
What is the total number of bedrooms for both buildings?
15. 15. Each one is a three bedroom. Yep.
So we have 15 bedrooms and again, 6 parking spaces?
Yes, sir.
It's right up the street from Stony Brook.
Exactly. Yeah. We're in walking distance to the Stony Brook T-stop.
And how are these units going to be accessible?
Yeah, go ahead,
So what we have is Dave O'Sullivan, architect. From the street, we have steps going up to the first floor level, and from the front porch, the two-family has 2 doors, 1 through each unit. And there's a rear stair near they also have access out to the rear yard. The 3-family has a similar stair going up, and there's a 1 door for the first floor unit and a 2nd door for the 2nd and 3rd floor units. We also, as part of the neighborhood thing, they had talked about privacy.
Handicapped accessible. There's no handicapped.
There's no handicapped accessibility, no.
Well, but that's because you have 1 unit that's at grade, right?
We basically, the first floor units are townhouses for the basement and first, and then the second floor unit on the two-family is second floor plus attic, and then on the three-family, there's 2 flats up above.
I mean, the funny thing is, you have to be able to get into the unit, but once in, it doesn't say you have to get upstairs.
Right, right. You have access at grade from the driveway to both of the lowest floor units.
Any other questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Alexandra Valdez, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We have had a total of 4 abutters meeting throughout the year on 279, 281 Lamartine. And due to a couple of community feedback, the applicant went from 1 building to 2 buildings, which is a 2-family and a 3-family. Also dropped 150 square feet from each of the units, making it smaller than their original planning. At this time, we would like to go on record to support.
Good morning, Madam Chair and members of the board. Will Poff Webster with City Councilor Matt O'Malley. The councilor would like to go on record in support of the project. The councilor asked the applicant to reduce the square footage during the design review process to be more in line with the neighborhood unit sizes, and he supports the project with that caveat. And we encourage the applicant to work with the community if the project is approved. Thank you.
I'm Barbara Sakoyanis, and I'm a direct abutter at 283 Lamartine Street. I support this project. I think small units, instead of, there was an issue about the 3 bedrooms and smaller units, I think would have more of a turnover. I think it's more family orientated, and I feel from what these developers have talked about, they've compromised tremendously with the community in trying to meet all of their concerns. But you can't make everybody happy, but I just want to say that I do support the project.
Thank you. With that, is anybody here to speak in opposition? Please line up and put your name and address on the record and give us new information, please.
Sure. Good morning, Madam Chairwoman and members of the board. My name is Quentin Pearson, also Trace Pearson. I am a direct abutter to this property. I live at 277 Lamartine Street. I live in a modest single-family home on a property that is more or less the same size as each of the lots that is under question here. I want to say, first of all, that we're talking about concessions that the developer has made.
Hold on. What I'd like to hear is what is your opposition based on?
Sure.
And just a reminder to the other people in line, give us new information. Okay, so tell us precisely what
Sure.
opposition is to the zoning.
So I understand that zoning, he has to first demonstrate hardship, which I believe he has done with the layout of the lots. But then he also should be granted the minimum number of variances, and we're looking at an excessive number of variances here from my perspective. The minimum number of variances would be to allow him to build anything on these lots which are non-conforming. I do, as I said, I'm a direct abutter. I should enjoy the same property rights that Mr. Legris should on his property, and I believe that this project as currently configured would be a significant infringement on my property rights.
Thank you.
My name is Monica Salas. Excuse me, I live at 278 Lamartine Street. I'm directly across from the lots in question. In general, the process has taken over a year. While some meaningful changes have taken place within the last 2 months, to grant these many variances at this point would take away any impetus he would have to continue negotiations with us. I feel we're making headway in getting to a design that is something everybody would be a little bit more comfortable with. We are not against development, but the development needs to preserve the things that make the neighborhood so desirable for the people that live in it. And people that thus far have spoken in favor of the development do not live in the neighborhood.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Hello. Good morning. My name is Annie Carter. I live at 5 Lamartine Terrace, which is a dead end. I would actually look into their yard behind the other houses. So I think similarly to my neighbors, we all, our neighborhood has been developed a lot in recent years. And we're talking right now about a house that had, I think, 1 family, a small family in it, and we're going into 15 bedrooms from maybe 2. And over the 6 years I've lived in my house, we've seen significant parking changes from, you know, plenty of on-street parking to some days impossible to find on-street parking. Garbage cans filling the sidewalks and
What
overflowing.
about the zoning? Because you've talked about the number of bedrooms, you've talked about the parking.
Yeah.
Anything related to the zoning for this particular property?
For that particular property, I mean, I feel like we're lucky to have a group of neighbors who are very committed and involved, and I know the abutters know a lot more about the specific zoning. My concern is about size, and just overpacking every single piece of property in our neighborhood in recent years. So those are my main concerns. Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth Firth. I own 272 La Martine. I also am representing my husband Peter and my daughter Evangeline, an adult who lives at 272. I just want to bring to your attention that we have a petition signed by 40 of the abutters who are opposed to the project as it now stands. And I just want to say that this neighborhood really tries to work with developers, and some other projects that have happened in the past, we've worked together to a point where what was built was something that we all think fits the neighborhood and is pleasant to look at. And this project is not yet there.
Thank you.
My name is Carolyn Ingalls. I live at 244 Chestnut Avenue. I'm a direct abutter in the back of the building. I'm echoing everything that everyone said. 15 bedrooms, too much, not enough parking. There's not enough space between these two giant units for enough parking, enough trash, enough snow removal. And also I object to a statement that was made earlier by the development team about 2 underutilized lots. There are 2 family homes on those lots. That's hardly underutilized.
Thank you. You get the last word. Your name and address for the record?
Yeah, my name is Tran. My last name T. Thank you. My last name Tran. My first name Xau.
And your address?
2 La Martine Place.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I hope you forgive me because I never have this kind of experience to, this kind of situation. And I don't know how to say it, but I just feel weird.
So you're opposed to this?
I wish the developers can have a little more negotiated for the butter, because the people who've been live there and they have more space and they can look around. And now the developer built those buildings may be too tall, and the butters people could not. I mean, I don't know what to say, but forgive me. That's all I can say. I wish them can have a little more negotiate and do a little better for the butter. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, so it sounds like you still have to continue engaging in a community process with with the abutters and with the residences. So there's some level of comfort with this project. Anything that you would want to put on the record?
Yeah, just you'll see in the memo that was submitted in support of the variance all of the list of outreach that was done for abutters meetings, neighborhood council meetings.
I mean, I think sometimes this is what happens, and we're seeing this more and more frequently here. Yeah. When there's a proposal that comes in too large, that gets kind of stuck in people's heads.
Yep.
So, perhaps the strategy's got to be a little bit different than that, because then, it continues being an issue.
I guess just the one thing I would say, and first of all, the developer deeply appreciates the input and the ability that we've had to work closely with the neighbors. In your packet, you'll see support as well. You heard, obviously, from the elected officials and one of our butters, but you'll also see letters of support in there, including one from an abutter at 271 Lamartine. And the other thing I would say is, at this point, making this fit. You know, you heard about preserving the neighborhood. We think that something that complies with all the setbacks and that would essentially comply with the height, but for the grade, has a negligible impact, if any, on abutting structures.
Oh, I get it.
With respect to the size of the units, the idea, this is a contemplated condo development for home ownership. The 2030 plan Mayor put together shows the need for larger units. However, we can also work through the design review process with the BPDA to work on, you know, shifting that square footage.
Yeah, we I think are all in support of family units because we are seeing a dearth of, we've seen far too many micros.
Yep.
So this is a relief to see something. Let me just, given this information, may I have a motion, please?
Make a motion to approve with continued BPDA design review.
Can I just make a comment on that? I used to live at 253 Lamartine, and I know the neighborhood very well. Neighbors in that area have had a history of trying to work through solutions. I would just encourage you, even though technically you may get an approval today, not to stop.
Okay.
So it can be part of the design review process.
And is this the second?
It is also a second, yes.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso and that strong suggestion.
Thank you very much.
It's now 11:50. I'm going to call the 11:30s. Are there any deferrals for the 11:30 rediscussions or withdrawals? Address, Counselor?
Yes, 90-102 Tenian Street.
For the record, calling BOA 678-322, 90 to 102 Tinian Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Jeff Drago with Drago and Toscano with a business address of 15 Broad Street, seeking on advice of the mayor's office a deferral for a billboard matter.
Jeff, so which, is this your second or your third deferral?
This would be our third.
Okay,
so-
just a reminder that we really need to get these squared away. This is, be realistic in the date that you're requesting.
So I've been told that the new regulations for the Dorchester be settled in January, so we were hoping, if possible, to get a February 6th date if that's available.
And if there's a slip in the schedule?
I'm sorry?
And if there's a slip in the schedule?
Oh, March? Oh.
Okay, so March is the date. May I have a motion, please?
Motion deferred.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Let's look at a March date.
We can either do March 6th or March 27th. Which do you prefer?
March 6th, if possible.
Okay.
Do March 6th.
Thank you.
Address, please.
4-6 Auckland Street in Dorchester.
And what are you requesting?
Oh, no, that's, you would,
I want a deferral.
And why is that?
I'm still in the process of doing that.
But you're only requesting a curb cut. I don't understand why
I
it's
have a
taking so long.
difficult time making an appointment with a bidder and also a neighborhood meetings, but we do have one today, so I'm going to be there and see if I can talk face-to-face with them first.
Madam Chair, let me call this in for the record before we go any further. Calling BOA 726-332-4-6 Auckland Street. Name and address for the record, please.
Kim
But
Dunn.
this was already deferred once.
Yes, this is the second deferral, and this is about as far as we go on this deferral. Please put your name and address on the record.
Kim Dunn Nguyen, 4-6 Auckland Street.
Thank you. May I have a motion, please?
Motion for deferral.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And please know this is the last deferral. So what kind of date are you
February
looking at?
6th.
Okay, February 6th.
Okay, thank you.
Okay?
Address, please.
287, 293 Maverick Street.
For the record, calling 725-789-287-293 Maverick Street. Name and address for the record.
Laureen Scatino from Attorney Richard Linz's office, 245 Sumner Street, Suite 110, East Boston. We're here today asking for a deferral. We're still in the BPDA process. It looks like we'll hopefully be completed with that in March.
May I have a motion, please?
Motion to refer.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? So it looks like we might need
April?
an April date.
If we could have March 27th, that would be helpful.
We can do March 27th.
Thank you.
Address, Counselor?
51 Lolly Street.
For the record, calling BOA 710-259, 51 Lolly Street. Name and address for the record.
James Rudser. My office is at 546 East Broadway in South Boston. Madam Chair, members of the board, this will be our second request for a deferral. This is at the suggestion of the mayor's office. This project has been to a number of community meetings, and we continue to work with the community to try to generate support for the proposal.
Okay, so what kind of date do you think would be
Could
really
we have
realistic?
that earlier date in March, not the
Okay.
27th? Is the 6th available?
March 6th.
Okay, may I have a motion?
Motion for deferral.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Thank you, Madam Chair, members of the board.
Thank you.
Are there any other deferrals or withdrawals? Madam Chair, we do have case BOA 736-227, 18 Greenwich Street. We have a letter from the lawyer. They're withdrawing, so the denial without prejudice.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, thank you for clearing up the agenda.
Now we can go back to calling BOA 764-560, 30 Casper Street. This is construct a new second-floor addition on an existing footprint, on an existing single-family dwelling, and construct a new rear deck. The violation is Article 56, Section 8, the floor-to-area ratio is excessive. Article 56, Section 8, the side yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Ryan Kenny. I'm the homeowner of 30 Casper Street, and this is the architect of the project, Mark Hirschman.
Okay, so tell us, what are you proposing?
So I'm proposing a second floor onto a one-story bungalow right now. We're not going to change the footprint at all. It's just going to be the existing building up one floor. Right now the building is 950 square feet, so that will double that to 1,900 square feet.
Stop right there. How's the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
The drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Jack Duggan, Neighborhood Services. Just like to go on record in support. We had a butters meeting back in October. A few neighbors came out. They were all in support. And then November 28th, they went before the West Roxbury Neighborhood Council, and the motion passed unanimously to support this. Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Shannon Murphy from City Councilor Matt O'Malley's office. The council would like to go on record in support of this project as well.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Paul Sullivan. On behalf of City Councilor at Large Michael Flaherty, council to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve with, we'll take BPDA design review on that.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 734-943, 33 to 35 Knoll Street. This is construct a parking area for 2 vehicles, an associated curb cut, and retaining walls. Construct new steps on the front porch. Violations Article 67, Section 32. Front yard parking is not allowed. Article 67, Section 9, open space is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Donna Sayeth, 33 Knoll Street.
And Timothy Burke, 142 Berkeley Street.
So just a question right off the bat. What prevents you from avoiding this being a front yard parking?
The area is primarily in the side part of the yard. Because of the topography of the land, we don't have a place to move it back into the property easily. And the area that does overlap the front of the house is really just the area for the car door to open up, so we don't anticipate any cars being parked.
And is that a one or a two-family dwelling?
This is a two-family dwelling.
It's a two-family dwelling. Is there parking on that side of the street?
Yes, there is.
Okay, and this would be space for how many spaces?
For 2 small to medium-sized cars.
And what would be the length of the curb cut?
It would be 20 feet.
Okay. So essentially, it would be the equivalent of 2 spaces on the street. How are the plans, Mr. Pisani?
The drawings are adequate, but it is front yard parking.
Okay. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Murphy from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. I'd like to go on record of support. Did host an on-site abutters meeting and there was no opposition. It was a unanimous support. Thank you.
Good morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. Walter Applewhite, Councilor McCarthy's office. We'd also like to go on record of support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
I'm going to make a motion to approve parking, but with proviso that BPDA take a hard look at getting rid of the front yard parking. That is pushing the parking back, cutting into the hill. I know you have to do that, but you're getting a great benefit. You're getting two parking spaces. I don't have great sympathy with the economic argument for the benefit versus the benefit that you get.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with that proviso.
Calling next case, calling BOA 749-878, 76 Easton Street. This is a change of option to include a wireless telecommunications facility. All work to be done pursuant to the plans provided. The applicant proposes to construct a new wireless telecommunications facility on the roof of an existing building. The violations, Article 9, Section 2, change in a multifamily structure in a 3F subdistrict. Article 51, Section 8, wireless communications is a conditional use in a pre-existing non-conforming structure. Name and address for the record, please.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Glissman, attorney with Prince Lobel Tie, 1 International Place, Suite 3700, Boston.
You've been before us. You know what our concerns are. Do these drawings reflect our concerns?
I believe they do, yes. We're here on behalf of T-Mobile Northeast. T-Mobile is proposing to install 6 wireless antennas on the roof of 76 Easton Street. 76 Easton Street is an existing 6-family, approximately 37-foot tall building, to pre-existing non-conforming building. So we're seeking a conditional use for the extension of a pre-existing non-conforming building and the wireless use in a residential area. We have reduced the size of the proposed chimneys. We're proposing 3 faux chimneys, each of which will contain 2 wireless antennas.
Can I just ask you why isn't there any taller building in this neighborhood that you can attach to rather than something in such a residential district?
Part of the reason for this site is to provide additional data capacity for T-Mobile's users, and so being in this residential area is much of the region that we need to sort of decongest and add additional capacity to. That being said, within this area, it's primarily 3-story, 3-family buildings. It isn't until you get much closer to Storrow Drive where you have, I believe there's a hotel building and a couple of Harvard-owned properties, none of which were interested in hosting our proposal.
It's a funny trade-off because in order for you to decongest from your end, you're congesting from a urban point of view with the application of these little watts on top of the building.
And does it look to me, if I'm looking at A3 in this package, are these exterior mounted? No?
No, they're not. They're all concealed within faux chimneys. They're 3.5 feet by 3.5 feet by 8.5 feet.
And was there any other option, anything else that you could have thought of that might resolve our longstanding issue with these?
The existing penthouse already has a number of dishes on it, so we were unable to attach to those, and based on the size of the roof and the carry that the antennas need. We had originally proposed 9 antennas with 9-foot tall faux chimneys, and we've reduced them. They were originally 4 feet by 5.5 feet by 9 feet. We've gone down to 2 antennas in each by 3.5 feet, 3.5 feet by 8.5. So we have gone down in size, and we're going with a faux chimney, which, you know, we have alternatives. We can utilize standing seam siding like we've done in the past, but for this building, we felt the fact that we have 3 separate chimneys, all of which are smaller, they're much more in keeping with this building and the residential nature of the neighborhood.
You mentioned that this building already has discs on it, is that correct?
It has these,
Yeah, the satellite dishes. Right, so they're not wireless.
So, I mean, what is the income stream on this?
That's
How much does the building owner, how much is generated, roughly?
Our office doesn't handle the leasing component of these projects, and it would most likely be between
the reason that I ask is that, in fact, Madam Chair, I think sometimes rather than simply having the opponent's attorney here or engineer, I think sometimes it may be useful to also have the building owner. I mean, I'm concerned because there are already satellite discs up there. And this is simply the proliferation of service. And we know from our experience that if we push back hard, somehow things get worked out.
Yeah, I'm, you know, this has been, as you probably could have guessed, something that we've been struggling with for over a decade. So the question is, perhaps there is a better location for this than in something that's already seems to be oversaturated and is bang smack in a residential district. There might be some options that you haven't explored yet in the commercial area that abuts you, or the industrial area. So anyway, that's just my statement. Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Warren O'Reilly, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We conducted an abutters meeting. We had a handful of residents come out. Their concerns were mostly thinking it was a development, and when they found out it wasn't, it changed the course of the conversation.
That's the worst case scenario.
I know, right?
Yeah.
And the construction schedule came up, but other than that, we would like to go on record in support.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco on behalf of Councilor Mark Siomo. Councilor Siomo, I'd like to go on record in support. Thank you.
Madam Chair, as members of the board, Annabelle Gomes from the Brighton Austin Improvement Association, we'd like to go on record in support.
Thank you. Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
What is the radius that these units will cover?
They typically cover so it's a point-to-point system. The users actually have to be accessed to have a line of sight to the tower. Typically, we look for connectivity anywhere from a half a mile to 2 miles. In an urban setting like this, where there's a lot of buildings and a lot of congestion and structures that would block the signal, a half mile or a much shorter radius is more common.
Which is an argument for having it on a higher building.
Certainly, if a higher building were available, we would absolutely utilize this. One of the first steps that occurs when a carrier like T-Mobile needs a new wireless facility is they contract with a site acquisition firm. They basically give them an area that says this is where we need our coverage, and they go out and really pound the pavement and reach out to the property owners, and they're responsible for ensuring that none of the stones are left unturned in terms of what potential areas. And in this case, that search ring included the industrial areas and the larger commercial areas.
So, Council, I have 2 questions. One is, can they remove the satellite dishes and put it there? And 2 is, it seems as though you know a lot about the process, but nothing about the money stream. That doesn't make any sense to me. So I'm a little bit concerned as to, you know all about the process. You asked a direct question about how much money the homeowner gets, and you have no answer to that, right?
I can comment generally on revenue streams from carriers. I don't know the specifics of this property.
It's fine. I think it's a part of me speaking on myself is that I'd like to have the building owner here to ask those questions and to ask, you know, what, and I would like you to bring a proposal forward that says, what else could you do besides this?
Yeah, and frankly, I'd like to know if with this increased income stream, is it going to reducing the rent and making some of the units more affordable, or is it leaving the neighborhood in some way? So anyway, so there's a motion for deferral, is there? Yes. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? And please make sure the next time the building owner is here, okay? Thanks.
Understood, thank
The
you.
date.
What is the date?
What's the date?
You do, February 6th?
I can. Yep.
Okay, excellent. See you
Thank you.
then. Thank you.
Calling the next case, calling BOA 733-714, 13 Rogers Park Avenue. This is erected two-family dwelling on a recently created lot. Violations Article 51, Section 9. The floor to area ratio is excessive. Article 51, Section 9. The front yard at Rogers Park Ave is insufficient. Article 51, Section 9. The front yard at Lake Street is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Donald Carroll, attorney with an address 29 Falkland Street in Brighton. And with me to my right is the owner and developer of 13 Rogers Park, Thomas Keane.
This address before this board before?
No, Madam Chair.
It was not in the recent past?
No. Mr. Keane had purchased the property about 5 years ago, and before that it was a long-term resident there who didn't. And 13 and the number 13 Rogers Park Avenue has only been granted, the number has only been granted for this project.
Okay, so this is a proposed subdivision, or has the subdivision been approved already?
Subdivision has been approved, subject to this erection permit being approved, because we have to change the front door entrance to the existing house to face the street. But it has been approved by Luis Santana.
Well, usually subdivisions come before us, so that's why I was curious. So what's the lot, tell us about the zoning. What's the zoning district?
Zoning is 2F 5,000,
Okay,
and we're fortunate enough to have for this project 6,800 square feet.
6,800. So to create the five, actually, so your lot size is insufficient.
No, lot size, we have 6,800 square feet. And
You need 7,500
for two family.
for a two-family, yep.
We weren't cited for that. It's two family, 5,000 square foot, so.
Okay, because Jeff, for the first unit, it's 5,000. Second unit, it's half, right? 2,500.
I'd have to double check, but usually in two-family districts, one and two-family districts, the first two units is 5,000, then the third unit would be the 7,500. I'd have to check on it right
7,500.
now.
Okay. Okay, so tell us about this proposal.
It's proposed to build two townhouse-style units. Each unit will be approximately 3,030 square feet. They each have 3 bedrooms and 3 bathrooms. We're providing 4 off-street parking spaces.
Each have 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms?
3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms.
Okay.
We're providing 4 off-street parking spaces to an existing curb cut. And we're here asking for 3 variances for dimensional violations.
And what's the FAR that's required and what's proposed?
The FAR that's required is 0.6, and we're proposing 0.88.
Okay.
And that's one of the violations is the FAR. The other violation is front yard setback. The required is minimum 20 feet. We're proposing 21 feet. But because there are 2 existing houses on the block already, we're directed to the modal setback, which would be come in at about 47 square feet due to the one property on the street, which is Mr. Keane's existing home, which is a little bit unreasonable. I think it would take up most of the lot if we were to do that. The second house in the block has a front yard of 11 square feet, 11 foot from the setback. And the other 10 houses in Rogers Park Avenue have 20 feet or less. So we're proposing the 21 feet.
And this
exceed.
directly abuts Rogers Park?
It directly abuts Rogers Park.
So in essence, your parking space would be directly abutting the park?
No, the parking space will be facing onto Lake Street, to an existing curb
I
cut.
see, okay. Okay, I see, okay.
And Lake Street is a one-way street, and Rogers Park Avenue is a one-way street.
Yep.
And there's no parking on either side.
Okay, how are the plans,
As-
Mr.
as-
Pisani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, members of the board, Warren Riley, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We had a well-attended, positive abutters meeting, and we would like to go in record in support. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Daniel Polanco on behalf of Councilor Mark Siomo. I'd like to go on record in support as well. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Annabelle Gomes from the Brighton Austin Improvement Association. We'd like to go on record in support.
Is anybody here in opposition, speak in opposition? May I have a motion, please?
Motion for approval, BPDA design review.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members of the
We'll
board.
call the next case, calling BOA 700-987-5 Cypher Street. This is commercial parking for 39 vehicles. The violations, Article 6, Section 03A. Additional conditions in restricted parking district. Article 25, Section 5, a flood hazard district applicability. Article 68, Section 13, the paid parking lot is a conditional use. Name and address for the record, please.
Morning, Mr. Secretary, Madam Chair, members of the board, Attorney Joe Hanley, McDermott Quilty Miller, 28 State Street in Boston. With me to my immediate right is David Cameron, who is the architect and the project manager for the appellant. Also, principal with the appellant, Dave Pogerelts, is with us as well. Handing out for the board presentation materials, including project site and plans to orient you towards to the location, as well as our memorandum, which was submitted earlier, but another copy for you of the community outreach and the compliance with the required findings for the relief requested. You also have in your packet.
Tell us, why were you deferred the last time?
This was deferred for community process, and since we are now returning, you'll see that there's a letter of support that came in this morning from one of the members of the leadership, Representative Collins. We also have received a favorable response from the neighborhood group, which is the St. Vincent Neighborhood Association, and we've worked closely with abutters and folks in the area as well to address this. The case is, this site, which you'll see in the photos, is a vacant industrial lot that's off Cypher and First Street, sort of the flats, if you will, connecting between the South Boston neighborhood and the industrial area and the convention center. The Hull Road runs alongside of it. This area was rezoned a little while ago in the previous administration as the First Street industrial zoning. And so what we are seeking to do is to get permission to use this for contractor laydown space. And when you look at the conditional use for fee-paid parking, it's actually for laydown space and commercial vehicles, meaning construction vehicles and the like. This area is undergoing tremendous amount of construction, and appropriate for the relief, this will help lift that burden for providing contractors and others the opportunity to park so that they're not parking in the neighborhood or further congesting the streets.
It appears in your memorandum that on page 2 that you are in compliance with the conditional use, that you are proposing to provide extensive landscaping and buffering.
Yes, ma'am. And so you have the BPDA recommendation for approval as well. So part of that is that's actually required as part of the relief, not just the conditional use, but the flood zone. And so we would go through buffering and landscaping. This used to be a contaminated site, and now it's been remediated. It's now clean.
And will it have porous materials as a base? Okay.
Yeah.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
They're adequate.
Any questions from the board?
I'm assuming, given its location, that at some point this is not gonna be a lay-down yard and or parking. I mean, this is.
Yeah, I mean, we think it's got especially a lot of potential for job creation, commercial uses. It is in a zone that, unique to South Boston, has been maintained from a policy standpoint as industrial, so we think contractor laydown space is appropriate.
Right, so, I mean, the reason I'm suggesting that is that, my guess is that there will be a tendency to try to do the minimum possible in the hope of selling it for someone who's going to use it for a more maximal use.
Yeah, but the development team, actually, the ownership team has experience in development in South Boston and has pursued larger plans on their own for this, but it's just
Okay, so-
not ripe yet.
So what kind of length of time are we talking about for this particular use?
3 to 5 years.
Really, that long?
Well, for the relief, this, the
no,
board,
yeah.
yeah.
Not the relief from us, I'm asking about.
Yeah. I mean, so larger plans not before the board have been put together and have been processed with the community in a positive way. And discussions have been had with the BPDA, but there's been no formal filing to initiate that. As you know, that could take, a year or two before a permit. So we'd like to make this property productive and help take the burden a little off the neighborhood.
What is it used for right now, Counselor?
Nothing.
Nothing,
So Casey and Hayes on the abutting site had the same use for some of their parking and laydown area, which is also owned. That abutting site is owned by the same ownership team. And so again, it also was formerly contaminated, and now it's gone through a full 21E, and so it's essentially unutilized.
Okay.
So is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Madam Chair, I have a question.
Hold on, just go get back.
Very good.
Madam Chair, members of the board, John Allison, Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. We would like to go on record in support, even though this has been cited under Article 68 due to the sort of fluid nature of zoning in South Boston with the iPod right now. We are comfortable supporting variances to 68. When the iPod ends, we will return to our position of opposing all variances. We do want to recognize we have gotten a letter of support from the St. Vincent's Neighborhood Association, and this is consistent with the current use of the site. Thank you.
Fluid, that's good. Good as infinite wisdom.
Go ahead.
Madam Chair, members of the board, Bob D'Amico, BTD. I support this proposal, but it does require a license from the Boston Transportation Department.
Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
Madam Chair, before the opposition, just have to ask the mayor's office. John, it doesn't come up as a violation on the South Boston iPod? Okay, so you mentioned that it was in the iPod. I'm just a little confused because you spoke earlier before a project that was, and then Michael Flaherty's office spoke against it, so I'm just a little confused on it. Okay. Should we be talking about, though, if it's not cited? Okay.
Okay.
Filing, if I may, too, the filing predates enactment, too.
Let's stop.
So-
Go ahead.
All right, thank you.
Councilor DeCara.
Okay, thank you very much. For the record, Lawrence S. DeCara, Nixon Peabody 100 Summer Street. And I have some handouts for the board, and I'll refer to them. And I represent the owner of the adjacent property, B&W Second. And this is the property which, in some of the handouts you have, is in green. And the property in question is in blue or purple. This is property owned by the Contos family. Owned property, been in business for a long, long time, about 50 years in this area. Mr. Contos purchased this property in advance of the construction of the Hall Road and many other public activities decades ago. His daughter Anastasia, who now speaks for the family, is unable to join us. She just delivered a baby a couple of weeks ago and is not able to join us. And she's had extensive conversations, has the deepest respect for Mr. Fogarel, who's the owner, but she does not believe that having trucks or any kinds of vehicles parked on the property immediately adjacent to hers is beneficial to her or the neighborhood or anybody else.
Larry, just a quick clarification. What is the current use of their site?
I'm getting to that, okay? At this time, there is no use for that site.
It's a vacant lot?
Correct.
Okay.
When the matter was before the board some months ago to provide for the storage of trucks on the other side of B Street by the same owner, similar use, similar relief, she did not object. But because of the strange relationship between these two parcels, and I've been around a long time, I have no idea what the origins are for how the two parcels are on this one block, but they are. She does not believe that this site, which is immediately adjacent, intertwined with her site, is an appropriate use. Now, the other handouts show the preliminary plans prepared by Stantec that she has made, and it is preliminary, as these things take a long time for the construction of an office building on this site.
So Larry, she's essentially here, you're representing her to preserve her property rights,
Correct.
essentially. And on this drawing that you've handed to us on site conditions, the number 3 is this proposed parking.
I'm not exactly...
It looks something like this.
Okay, and that one.
Yeah, the site conditions. So number 3 is Cypress Street parking.
I think that's the correct one, yes.
Okay.
So it's the little slice of the pie, if you will. Looks like a slice of pie, which is the land, and her land is the green. And there's different handouts up there, Madam Chair.
So on this one, I'm just trying to understand this one, which is her property? Is it the pinkish colored parcel?
Yes, the big one, the pink
Okay.
one. It's pink there. I'm
Okay.
calling it green because it's green on the top one I have.
Okay, excellent. Okay, thank you.
And that's pretty simply it. She owns the adjacent property. It's a significant parcel. It's important to her family. She had no problem with the trucks being on the opposite side of B Street, but given the proximity to her property, does not want trucks stored right there.
Thank you. Is anybody else? Thank you, Larry. Is anybody else here to speak in opposition?
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Jesse Alderman. I'm an attorney at Foley Hoag LLP. I represent Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Massachusetts Department of Transportation submitted a letter in opposition on December 8th to the applicant's proposed project, which should be in the record before you. MassDOT holds a record easement in and around a railroad track on the applicant's property. This plan would eliminate the ability of MassDOT to use this easement for its current plans in violation of law. If you look at the exhibit that was submitted with our December 8th letter, this is the applicant Smiley First LLC's own ALTA survey that is incorporated by reference in its title insurance policy and notes explicitly that the property is subject over 60%, and the easement boundaries are shown to MassDOT's record easement. That easement is recorded in the Registry of Deeds, and there's a long chain of title evidencing that. And then if you compare the applicant's parking plan for 39 parking spaces that was submitted earlier, and I'm not sure if that was subject to change, I will note that MassDOT has never once been notified of this project by the applicant. So I may be working off of incomplete information, but if you compare a prior parking plan, it shows something in the neighborhood of 20, certainly double-digit parking spaces within the boundaries of MassDOT's easement. MassDOT's use of its easement has been well publicized The easement will soon be used, and it's subject to an order of conditions from the Boston Conservation Commission. The property to test the new red line vehicles that have been procured by MassDOT and the MBTA. That's critical federal safety testing for those vehicles. That's a $495 million procurement of those vehicles, which is on schedule and on budget. And the MBTA, in a project sponsored by MassDOT, will be using that rail right-of-way and constructing a testing facility for those vehicles before they can be placed into service. So,
How long will that be?
something, I'm not aware of that at the moment. I don't have the plans in front of me. My understanding is into 2019.
Okay.
So this is a critically important transportation and environmental project for the Commonwealth, and we'd like to ask that you please deny the application.
I see one more attorney. Name and address for the record, please.
Michael Maroney from Holiday Night, 10 St. James Avenue. Madam Chair, members of the board, in addition to the letter of opposition submitted by CSX Transportation, I speak on their behalf in opposition to this proposal today for two primary reasons. The proposal would unreasonably interfere with CSXT's easement rights to use the trackage on the property for freight rail service. Some of the parking spaces, as you might have noted from the drawings and the plans, appear to be about 1 to 2 feet from the mainline track. Those easement rights are also subject to a pending land court action. That action needs to be resolved before this proposal can be considered. In addition, I will note that, as my brother has stated, CSX as well was not notified of these plans. So to the extent Councilor has stated they work closely with the butters to address this, I would disagree with that.
Are those rail lines active?
This is for commercial freight rail service for CSX. It's a freight rail carrier. It's my understanding they're not currently using that line, but certainly maintaining.
Want to preserve their rights.
Yeah, and for the record, the applicant does not dispute that CSX maintains an easement for freight rail service over that, over the trackage.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
May I have a motion, please? Is there somebody else to speak in opposition?
Do you want?
It just sounds like there's just some overwhelming information here from MassDOT,
Yeah,
CSX.
if I could just.
Those two primarily.
Okay. So with regard to CSX, the ownership received a letter of September 6, 2017, which essentially is consistent with what you've heard, stating that CSS no longer has an interest in a portion of these railroad tracks, which I'll submit for the record, which you will see. This is the plan that you have in front of you on this side. So what we're talking about, what his letter refers to, is this track 61 side here, and what we can comply with CSX demands to relocate that by design review.
So you can move it over 2 feet. So
It has to be 10.5 feet from the center line of the existing tracks, which they do not use.
So then why did you submit a proposal to us that when you knew already, you were aware already about this requirement for 10.5 feet?
It's something that we have worked, and you'll see the BPDA recommendation of approval that it had come up through the buffering and exercise with BPDA, but I would suggest we can comply. We've had lots of discussions on this, and it's easily done by design review.
Is that true? You're saying that's true for the dispute with CSX. What about with MassDOT?
So MassDOT is, there's a fundamental disagreement, as counsel indicated. Title policy's been issued to my client, and we dispute the T's rights, and there's a pending matter in land court, which has nothing to do with zoning. So the way this works is, if we don't have title, it can't be permitted. But I will also say, counsel mentioned the Conservation Commission in the city of Boston. My brother DeCara, his client has a superseding order challenging the Conservation Committee's grant as it impacts Contos, as does my client as well. So it's very much in dispute, but that's not unusual for the board. The board typically doesn't get involved with that.
The two issues I'm concerned with is Mass DOT and
Yep.
CSX.
Yes, so
Those
MassDOT doesn't have the rights to, in our legal opinion, which is backed up by Fidelity Title Insurance, and that's a pending land court case right now for these tracks, which essentially is a bigger legal discussion on that. Has nothing to do with zoning. The second piece with respect to CSX is we can comply with the 10.5-foot setback from the middle of the tracks as shown in the plans. We can do that through design review. The other thing I would just say on Contos very quickly, if you look at this plan out of respect for the relationship with the vacant Contos site, the egress for this parking area is on the far side of that off Cipher Street. And then there will be a robust buffering and landscaping program along the edge with the Contos condition. So we look forward to continue to work with Contos. They are our butter. I don't know if someone who claims railroad rights is in a butter, but we've certainly been, there's been a lot of discussions with MassDOT, and we dispute their rights based on pretty good case law and the fact that we have title insurance, but it's not a zoning issue, and it's something that you guys have never, to my knowledge, gotten involved
That
with.
we do keep those land disputes separate from our decision.
We also have a condition.
But I also want to make sure that when it does go, or through its land court process, that there is a clear understanding that this does not give any additional weight to any party. Our decision.
Right.
Whether, so I just want to make clear that is on the record.
So it's a use issue, right? You heard from the community saying we desperately need to take pressure off traffic and
Well,
parking.
But we
and-
also need to understand other things, but thank you for trying. So given all this information, may I have a motion, please?
Madam Chair, may I have one additional comment for the record, if I may?
Yes, please, quickly.
Thank you, and I appreciate it quickly. I would just like to dispute the notion that this is, it seems like there's a reversal of the burden here. There's a record easement filed in the Registry of Deeds. The applicant has brought an action to quiet title. Until our title and that easement is quieted in a judicial proceeding, there are no rights here. They can be, we certainly acknowledge that they're disputed, but I think that the burden may be a little bit reversed here.
You're right. Okay, so may I have a motion?
May I make one point for the factual record?
What is
Very
happening? Am
briefly.
I the chair or am I just sitting here?
I apologize,
So
but there's a
make it
factual
quick, please.
inaccuracy
Make it
that must be
quick.
cleared up regarding the 10.5 feet.
Okay.
That 10.5 feet from the title policy is actually 10 feet, and it's a number made up by counsel for the applicant. It is not a requirement, it is not a CSX requirement, and to comply with that would be a farce. It is not the actual requirement or required setback from the rail. CSX has their own setback requirements, and that is not it. So to the extent there's a suggestion they could back it up 10 feet and comply is inaccurate.
Larry, do you have any last-minute comments to make now that your brothers have just jumped the line here? Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'd like to make a motion to deny without prejudice. I sort of feel like we're getting sucked into a morass here, not of our own making, and that our decision might end up playing a role in some of this litigation, which I don't think we want to do.
Before we deny it without prejudice, can we defer it?
I don't think so, because the attorney's right that it's, yeah, so, is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Case calling BOA 757453, 653 Cummings Highway. A new 5-story building with 13 residential units and 9 parking spaces. The violations, Article 60, Section 9. The floor area ratio is excessive. Article 60, Section 9. Usable open space is insufficient. Article 60, Section 9. The height is excessive. Article 60, Section 9. The rear yard is insufficient. Article 60, Section 9. The side yard is insufficient. Article 60, Section 8. A multifamily construction is forbidden in the 2F 4,000 subdistrict. Article 60, Section 40, proposed off-street parking is insufficient. And Article 60, Section 9, front yard is insufficient. Name and address for the record, please.
Patrick Mahoney of Adams and Moranci, with a business address of 350 West Broadway.
Morning, Madam Chair, members of the board. My name is James Christopher with Project Architects, RCA LLC, the business address of 415 Neponset Ave in Dorchester.
Has this been reduced?
It has substantially, Madam Chair. It was a 13-unit building with an additional floor and a very large roof deck. Through an extensive community process, it has come down to 9 units with 9 parking spaces, and thus eliminating the parking violation.
So, but you still have to respond to the fact that this is a 2F 4,000, and you're proposing 9 units
That's
in
correct.
this district.
Madam Chair, in this area along Cummings Highway, there is a wide range of uses, from apartment buildings. There's a liquor store, a church diagonally across the street, a funeral home, all within a 2F 5,000 zoning subdistrict. And it's for this reason that the zoning board is here to look at the urban planning and the landscape with the proposals before them and decide what fits. And we did go through the community process. At a larger project, initially we were here to get that approved, and then at the last minute there was a couple of changes that needed to be addressed. Some were the density and the height, which has been removed. The building height dimensionally is compliant. It's less than 35 feet. It's a violation only for number of stories today, because 2.5 feet is what's required for this area. The rear yard, in the rear of the yard, there's a bit of ledge and an elevation lies, significant elevation difference between the lot behind it. So we feel it would be appropriate to be within the rear yard, as there's a significant buffer between the buildings as it is. It's a corner lot, and both front yards would apply, although we still would be seeking relief for that, and that's what we're here for today.
Okay, and
What were the unit sizes, please?
Certainly. There's Unit 1 is the smallest unit. It's a studio on the first floor in the front of the building. It's 371 square feet. From that, they range up there is a 1-bed and 3 2-bedroom units, which range from 625 square feet to 1-bed, and the 2 beds range from 860 square feet to 1,134 square feet.
so you know what the question is going to be. How can we, why should that studio be at 371 square feet? That's pretty significantly undersized.
We thought that we would, with that unit, Madam Chair, to accommodate the parking at grade interior, but also keep the building activated at the street level, we thought that we would make better use of that space to have a residential unit at grade.
I have no problem with that, but isn't there a way of making that unit, figuring out a way to make that unit larger?
We could certainly reduce the size of the lobby and perhaps shift the stair back a little bit, and we would absolutely be willing to that. What we were trying to do with the layout was accommodate the parking and the entry and egress from the garage onto Ridlawn Road. But there's certainly space within that to revise that and try to pick up a little bit more square footage for that studio at grade.
How are the plans, Mr. Bazzani?
Drawings are adequate.
Any questions from the board? Is anybody here to speak in support of this proposal?
Good morning, Madam. Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Whitney Celestin from the Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Services. So I inherited this case here from the previous liaison. I'd like to go on record in support of this project. However, there is a big concern about the rock on this property. So the 653 plot, there is a rock and there are some homes on top of the rock. And there is an issue where the community is worried that the excavation of these rocks will affect the homes on top of the property. This is a step that they cannot assure the abutters of until it's in construction phase. So after this year, they would go on. And there's another concern about the traffic, because Ridland Road is a one-way street, and that is where the entrance of the building would be. And so,
can I ask you a question? Is the issue that some of the rock has to be removed?
exactly. So they're worried about the effects of.
There are a variety of construction techniques that can be used to mitigate.
Yes.
And I would strongly urge the abutters to
Correct. The attorney mentioned to me it was a geotech that they would be doing a construction phase.
It's like a fracking sort of thing that you can do.
Yeah.
But
Okay.
that's not for our purposes.
Thank you.
Anybody else to speak in support or kind of support? Is anybody here to speak in opposition?
My name is Candace Williamson. I'm a direct abutter of 653 Ward 18. My house is located on the top of the boulders, and my major concern is just the compromising the integrity of my home. As a homeowner, I have the rights for subjacent and lateral support, and construction of said property compromises my rights. And stated proposal indicates underground excavation and removal of undefined portion of the boulders. And since the last meeting that it was deferred, we were never met by either the developers as a community process. I think we're due process, and we should have another meeting with the individuals we were not informed of.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair, members of the board. Walter Applewhite, Councilor McCarthy's office. What's that?
It was quite a big sigh.
Yeah, I know, it's kind of late in the day. For the same reason to be a part of this process is that there is a large retaining wall, and there's a lot of land that's sort of in the topography of the plans. And there's considerable concerns about the removal of that land and how it's going to affect the properties that are sitting on top of the hill. From my understanding from the community meetings, that was not addressed to at least a level of comfort from the people whose houses have been there 20-something years. There's also a concern about traffic exiting onto Ridlawn, because Ridlawn is a very small street that sits on a hill, so traffic would be, sort of exiting and taking a right coming down a hill, where the previous councilor had to get a traffic light installed at that intersection because of school buses and traffic and all of that. So right now, that's a small, empty parking lot, and the introduction of traffic at that intersection would be tremendous. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Madam Chair and members of the board. My name is Clyde Hunt. I live at 19 Roxton Road. I'm also one of the abutters, and for the reasons that were expressed earlier, I also object to this project. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Councillor, tell us who you're hiring or proposing to hire, should this project be approved, to protect the properties that are upon that ledge.
Madam Chair, just first, one thing that's worth bringing to the attention, and we did several times through the community, I think we had 6 or 7 abutters meetings and community meetings, and expressed this very thoroughly, more so as it progressed, as the ledge became an issue to the community. A geotech is required for any building over 2.5 stories, and what that does is it surveys the below the subterranean surface. One of the abutters in opposition is correct that she is entitled to have her property and the subjacent support for her property, and that'll be done through the construction phase, and the architect begins that a little bit further.
I was at a meeting on a Saturday on the site where we did address some of these concerns as directly as possible. Obviously, at that point, the detailed engineering has not been completed yet, but the fieldstone wall that's in position now is in poor condition and in need of repair. In conjunction with our project, that wall will be removed and replaced, and the necessary structural bracing will be applied to that land behind it. As far as the blasting and removal of ledge, obviously there's ledge on site. The impact is not entirely known, but since we are working with the slab on grade and we're not going to be excavating a full basement or foundation, we believe that it's a reasonable amount of ledge to remove and can be done so without impacting the abutting properties.
Again, since I've just been through this in the neighboring house, you don't have to blast.
Right, and we would not.
It won't be
We would
blasting.
not blast.
It'd be
Okay,
I
well,
say,
don't use that word if you're not going to do it.
Right.
And there's also monitoring
Right.
equipment available to see what impact it's having on neighboring
Correct, and we
houses.
also said in the meeting that we would be willing to work with the abutters to document the existing conditions of their basements and foundations,
Yeah,
and
there's a protocol for all of this.
absolutely.
and possibly a proviso for no blasting would be appropriate.
So who is the owner of this property?
Phil Phillips is the owner. He owns the adjacent liquor store in the area.
Okay, and he's owned that for a period of time?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, just wanted to know that somebody is going to be following through with the residents on all fronts.
Yep, it's
Okay, may I have a motion, please?
I'll make a motion for approval with DPDA design review and the proviso that no blasting be done as part of the excavation.
And we are also recommending highly that conversations continue with the neighbors so that there is adequate monitoring of their buildings to ensure there's no damage. Is there a second? Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. You're all set.
Thank you for your time.
Calling the next case, calling the court remand rediscussion, VOA 434-579-222 Stewart Street. This is a parking lot for 20 motor vehicles for a fee. Address for the record, please.
Paula Devereaux, attorney at Rubin and Rudman, and with me is Peter Spelios on behalf of the owner of Stewart Acquisition 22 LLC.
So you were deferred. Tell us why and what's happened in the meantime.
So we were here before you on October 31st, and we were deferred in order to develop a landscape plan for the parking lot and also to reach out to the Neighborhood Association, both of which we have. Before you, that's being handed out before you, was a letter of support from the Bay Village Neighborhood Association with conditions that my client will abide by, as well as a plan showing the planters and landscaping.
So these planters on Shawmut Street essentially impede through traffic.
Correct.
Okay. And then there's planters by the pedestrian way, and you're saving the current kiosk as it is. And there is one handicap spot. And how many spaces again?
20 spaces.
20.
And we are looking for this for a 2-year use while in an existing appeal of the proposed development, which was approved by this board in August, goes forward, and until that is concluded.
Sounds like they have a lot of provisos for you guys.
It's 20 parking, correct? Not 22, 20? 20 parking spaces?
20, yes, 20.
And so the signage will be coming down, okay? Okay, thank you. And are these plans meeting your standards, Mr. Bazzani?
Absolutely.
Okay, any other questions from the board? This is, and so this is a court remand. May I have a motion, please?
Motion to approve with proviso that the applicant adhere to the agreement developed with the Bay Village Neighborhood Association.
Second.
And that's for 2 years,
Thank you.
and it's for 20 cars, 20 vehicles. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries with those provisos.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Meeting is adjourned.